This is the Tower of Monsters, a calamity that suddenly appeared in the world many years ago. Creatures poured out of it like bees from a hive. Helpless before such an overwhelming threat, humanity was pushed to the brink of extinction. With little hope left, a group of people known as the progenitors emerged. They became the first generation of transcendents. They repelled the monster invasion and successfully destroyed the tower. Then humanity halted the monsters, securing victory. The heroes were revered as saviors of the world and upon death were buried in the sanctuary of the progenitors. Several centuries have passed since that event. Minato Kanji, as a child, loved reading the tales about them in the sanctuary's library, like the one about the Blade Master who defeated 10,000 creatures with a single strike, or the mage who unlocked the secrets of magic and could cast any spell without uttering a word. The heroes in these legends were larger than life, and Minato dreamed of making his own mark in history, until one day, he received a sign. One of the marks that appears on all those chosen to become transcendents. He made a vow that one day he too would become a transcendent worthy of being remembered like the progenitors. At least, that's what the boy thought. It is announced that the results have come out. Everyone celebrates passing the exam. However, not everyone actually succeeded, as Minato receives the message that he doesn't meet the requirements for approval. While the others cheer in joy, the boy is the only one sad in the room. Some of his classmates even ask if he can clean up the classroom so they can head out to celebrate. To become a transcendent, you only need to sign your name. That's how everyone jokes about the hunter exam, but he failed it 3 years in a row. You can only take the exam 3 times, so this was his final chance. Now he will never become a hunter. Even though he passed the written exam with flying colors and increased his aura, he wonders what use the mark is if he can't graduate. To the boy, the symbol now feels no more useful than some foolish blood test. Crying, Minato feels it's all so unfair. What he wanted most was to be like the progenitors. From the window, someone yells at him to hurry up because everyone is waiting at the school gate. He's not very excited, especially because he believes it should be him that everyone is admiring. The girls can't help but stare. So handsome is the new prodigy, and even the boys are impressed. Everyone is talking about the A-rank hunter Kaze Hizaki. Smiling, the young man apologizes for causing such a commotion. Minato's classmates are annoyed with him for taking so long and making the star of the moment wait. Casey says it's not very cool to treat the weak badly, which the boys grumble about. With an intimidating look, the hunter points out that, in case they hadn't noticed, there's a team of reporters behind him. One of the guys is amazed by the academy Casey graduated from and says he hopes the young man doesn't mind being followed around for the day. The man then asks what he thinks about using the photo of him slaying a dragon for the magazine cover, to which the hunter replies that it sounds like a good idea, though he doesn't think it looks that great. Right behind, Minato watches him. After all, the two entered together, but the other boy quickly became known as a genius, earning top scores in every subject. But that's not all. Casey is also the jerk who used to bully him, all throughout the time they were in the same class. Trembling, Minato wonders why he even has to be there while they're filming, as it's far too humiliating. One of the reporters asks who is next to him, and Hunter replies that he's an old friend, even though he doesn't know Minato's name, while another whispers something about him. Proudly, the school's star claims the boy was always getting into trouble and came to him for advice, saying he used to take time out to help him. He even says he helped him financially, which Minato does not appreciate at all. After all, Casey always stole his money and never gave him a single cent. This has definitely been the worst year of his life. Meanwhile, the reporters praise the hunter, saying he's perfect, both inside and out. With a smile, the liar says he won't disappoint anyone and that one day his name will go down in history as one of the great transcendents. Then the man says Minato is lucky to have Kaizai looking after him, and another adds that the boy should be grateful for everything. All that pressure makes the boy extremely nervous. Before he can say anything, the liar reminds him that he failed the exam. With an intimidating smile, he says it must be a terrible day for him and asks if it wouldn't be even worse to end it with an even lower score. But all that comes to the boy's mind is the humiliation he went through during that year. Minato is shaking heavily under the bully's intimidation. With camera flashes in his face, he says that Kaze has been by his side and always thinks about those times, and says he feels nothing but gratitude for the rest of his life. As soon as he finishes, the hunter lets him go and says that's enough since they don't have much time. Kaze invites them to see his trophies, which delights the whole crew. They don't even remember Minato's name and say it's not necessary to know it for the story after all. No one cares. To a loser, it doesn't matter how rotten someone is inside. As long as they become a hunter, everyone looks at them. People remember their names. Crying, the boy wonders what his name will ever mean one day. Suddenly, someone calls out to him, making him jump. The bully tells him to go to the shrine after school, which makes Minato panic, wondering what they want with him. With a fake smile, Casey asks if he doesn't want to retake the test. He explains that he spoke well of the boy to the Hunter Association. Surprised, Minato asks why, and the other responds that it's just to look like the nice guy. After all, the reporters are going to do one last shoot at the location, and he says they'll talk more about it later. Always intimidating, Casey says he better be there. Still, Minato doesn't know if he should really trust him. Even though he doesn't like the idea of being used to boost the hunter's image, this might be his chance to turn his life around. Thinking carefully about it, the boy starts to feel calmer, and he decides that this time he's going to pass. The superstar of the next generation of progenitors is making a vow to protect humanity from monsters. His image is flawless. At the end of filming, the reporters thank Kaze for letting them shoot all day despite his busy schedule. The hunter waits until everyone has left. Then he enters the shrine for what awaits him. He asks his lackeys if they found the entrance. Smiling, the boys reveal they did what he asked, and the superstar tells them to go in and grab the stuff. Suddenly, a voice comes from behind, asking what he thinks he's doing. Not even trying to hide it, he openly admits to his treasure hunt. Minato objects, saying it's robbery, and asks if he knows who's buried there. But the A-rank hunter asks who even cares about that. With great force, he stomps the ground, sending rocks flying. The superstar says they're just a bunch of old, moldy mummies. He claims they can make a fortune selling the items instead of letting them rot, and says he can't believe Minato actually believes in the progenitor nonsense. But those heroes were perfect, and once he wished to be like them. The boy remembers when he promised he'd be just like them. Thinking about it suddenly fills him with rage. He then charges forward to punch the bastard. But being perfect at everything, KZ dodges easily, and finds an opening to punch Minato right in the stomach, making him vomit his own vital fluids. The superstar asks if the boy forgot who he's talking to. Shaken, Minato thinks the blow he took could have killed him. His lackeys call out, saying they found the items. The backpack is quite full of treasures. Even while injured on the ground, Minato is very worried about it. Sensing an aura, the superstar asks if it's coming from the items and already imagines living like royalty for the rest of their lives. He grabs the boy by the shirt and says he just needed someone dumb enough to fall for the lie about a new test. Having heard the rumors about the boy, he first laughed, then realized he had found exactly what he was looking for. KZ already has the story. A failed loser, disappointed by not achieving his dream, decided to steal a treasure of his own heroes and vanished. The hunter even says it'll probably make front-page news, and the article will talk about the third-year student accused of stealing the treasures of the progenitor's sanctuary, and according to the police, they already have a suspect. As he lets go of the boy, he asks once more what his name is. Minato is deeply scared, aware that these are likely the last moments of his life, but the superstar says his name doesn't matter anyway. Then the boy falls off the cliff. Plunging into the water, he wonders if this is really how his life will end, and that probably no one will even remember him. Suddenly, orbs of light appear around him. They then transform into strange beings. The strangers debate whether the boy could be the vessel they have been waiting for to fulfill their hopes. They finally introduce themselves, saying they are the spirits who rest in the progenitor's sanctuary. The boy's eyes widen at this revelation. He wonders what is going on, what all these lights and voices are, and if these really are the heroes. One of the spirits says that the mark he bears is the mark of the void, and though it holds no power of its own, it can contain any power within it. Then he asks Minato to choose a progenitor with whom to form a bond, explaining that each figure he sees is a supreme master of their domain. Like mages, martial artists, sword masters, spear fighters, and summoners, and whoever he chooses will grant him a power far beyond anything he could imagine. Once again, the spirit asks what power he desires, and Minato knows exactly what he wants. Tired of bullies like Kazi, he no longer wants to live in a world where anyone can push him around. The boy wishes for the greatest strength possible to erase all the humiliation he suffered throughout his life. The mage urges him to hurry and choose someone, and the loser boy decides he wants the power of all of them. The progenitors find his ambition extraordinary, though they fear it may not be possible, as even a strong vessel might not be able to contain them all. But taking initiative for the first time at what he believes is the end of his life, Minato demands they be quiet. He doesn't want to hear excuses and commands that he wants all of them within him. Suddenly, all the spirits are drawn into the mark on his hand. The progenitors are stunned by what's happening, some even calling the boy insolent, splitting their opinions. The magic circle beneath the boy's feet begins to shine. KZ is the first to notice that something's wrong. All the water begins rising where it's glowing. One of the henchmen opens an umbrella, preventing the surprised superstar from getting wet. Everyone looks on in awe at Minato levitating, glowing with an aura. The boy lands in front of them, and he no longer has the gaze of the loser who used to be bullied. Surprised, the spiky-haired one says Minato is harder to kill than a cockroach. The boy is checking something in his hand. Then the bullies notice it. They burst into laughter once they realize what it is, asking if he really thinks he's going to hurt them with that stick. KZ tells them to stop as he's seen enough. Then he orders that the boy's head be taken, making sure he never comes back again. Obeying the order, the spiky-haired one conjures a sword. Shoving off, he asks Minato if he remembers he always scores top marks in sword exams, saying the boy should feel honored. Unshaken, the ex-loser asks if he really believes that sword is from a true master of the blade. But without listening, the bully charges at him. Minato simply defends himself with his stick, and astonishingly, the swordsman is the one who ends up being sliced, along with his sword. Minato asks how one can tell it's the blade of a true swordsman, but the bully can't even utter a word, and the others stare, terrified at what just happened. Once more, the boy asks the same question. After all, he wants to know what made him think his sword is so special. But the big guy doesn't give him a chance, using his green magic known as the Gaze of Destruction and the legend of the second classroom of 7th grade. Bathed in a yellow aura, Minato points his finger and says he's way too slow, and he casts the spell Hadad. This shocks the bully. He wasn't supposed to be able to recite that. A brilliant explosion erupts. The big guy falls to the ground, scorched like a pig. KZ is left stunned that his opponent could stab a regular person with a twig and cast spells without even saying a word. It's almost like the legendary Blade Master who defeated 10,000 monsters with a single command, or the mage who unlocked the secrets of magic, casting spells without speaking. The Transcendents were larger than life, like characters from a fairy tale. Now those spirits reside within the body of Minato Kanji. In total, there are 106 of them. Minato remembers when the superstar said his name would go down in history as one of the great transcendents. But now he says that name will not be remembered, because he has decided not to include it, and in the immortal legends, people will speak only of them. A blue aura illuminates the boy, giving him an even more powerful presence. It's all incredible to Minato, who can feel the spirits of the progenitors within him alongside the mark of the void. He feels them brimming with emotion. The voices of the heroes echo in his mind, one amazed at how many runes there are, another claiming he hasn't felt this free in centuries. Minato read the tales of the progenitors so many times that he memorized them all, but it's hard to believe these heroes are now inside him. He closes his eyes, feeling them, seeing them all together, smiling. But their expressions shift. They must decide who will take control of the boy's body. Then the swordsman calls to him, Raikiro Hinoki, who defeated 10,000 monsters with a single strike. The long-haired man smiles, saying it's a pleasure to know his reputation lives on even after so many years. After all, a legend never dies. He asks what the boy intends to do. Minato wonders if it's about the last bully, but the hero says no. Pointing toward the real issue, the swordsman asks what he's going to do about that. Then the chosen one seems to awaken, finally understanding the situation. As he walks, still nervous, Keize can't resist calling him a loser. The superstar draws his sword and asks how he dares to challenge an A-rank hunter, saying he'll teach him a lesson. But he doesn't get the chance to finish. He gets punched straight in the face. The blow is so powerful, it sends the bully flying. Without much emotion, Minato just wants him out of his way. A dark aura spills out from the backpack. The light grows even more intense. While Minato is still in awe, Raikiro smiles with pride. The city is in total chaos. A large three-headed black dog runs wild. The monster smashes through everything in its path. With a loud growl, it stops in front of a man. The heads snarl and huff menacingly. But the man leaps away, dodging the creature, and strikes it with crushing fall impact. Onlookers are stunned as Karasag, an S-rank hunter, defeats an A-rank monster with a single blow. The man gives thanks and asks where Keize is. But then he remembers the superstar had mentioned in an interview, which is good for the guild's reputation. As he hands over the report, he notices something strange and wonders if it's some kind of monster. Where is this emergency coming from? Realizing something's wrong, he turns around in alarm. The boys are collapsing to the ground, and one of his companions asks what's going on. The pressure is so intense that even A and B class members can't remain standing. It makes him think this might be an S-rank monster requiring a massive scale attack. It's getting stronger and affecting everyone in its path. It's coming from the sanctuary of the progenitors. Meanwhile, Keize is lying on the ground. Something in front of him terrifies him. A sinister black creature with many eyes and tentacles is emerging from the backpack. Terrified, the superstar asks where the creature came from, and Minato explains that it's his fault for defiling the sanctuary of the progenitors. One of the tower's boss monsters had been sealed, was inside the items, things he stole with his lackeys. Raikiro explains that some monsters manage to cheat death using a hibernation ability. The dark thing before them is known as the Plague of Futility. It opens its dozens of eyes. Its rank is estimated to be S or even higher. The creature emits a toxic aura that wipes out people within a radius of several kilometers. Back in the day, it was as common as flies. Keize says he's getting out of there, but the swordsman, Minato, warns him that making a move will make the monster target him. Nothing escapes those eyes. The creature launches its tentacle, making the superstar scream in terror. His sword is shattered. It doesn't seem possible after all. He once defeated a dragon with that blade. The boy is infected by the monster's tentacle and has his life force drained. Indifferent, Minato says he tried to warn him. Then Raikiro calls out and asks what the boy thinks about giving him full control of his body. The swordsman says he's seen him in action and knows what the Hinoki-style sword can do, trying to tempt him while the others are busy settling in. Minato says he doesn't mind lending his body, and the long-haired man is relieved at how easy it is. However, the others won't let him get away with keeping the fresh, young vessel all to himself. But the real surprise comes when the boy says he'll lend his body to all of them. He even says he's going to surpass them all, no matter what it takes. To make that happen, he understands that he has to experience their full power for himself and asks them to show him everything they got. Raikiro is tired of this little brat stepping in and taking advantage of the situation. The swordsman says they may have bitten off more than they can chew. He projects his performance through Minato as if he were a puppet master and the boy his marionette, and they're ready to dominate the battle. With swift spear movements, the monster is sliced, losing one of its tentacles. Unluckily for the boy, his stick was also damaged in the process. But there's no need to worry as another master steps in. Using martial arts, Minato strikes the monster. Another tentacle is torn from the horrific, many-eyed creature. Wasting no time, the boy grabs the branch from the ground. And another hero takes control of his body, followed by yet another spirit, not leaving a single progenitor out. With so many hits in a row, the creature is completely messed up. While the creature is out of sync, Minato grabs the backpack. But it's the archer's turn, and the battle isn't over yet. The arrow hits the monster, sending multiple beams of light piercing his body. Its green fluid even splashes onto the boy. Minato wipes his face and goes back on the attack, using a sequence of strikes from each master. With Raikiro, he grabs Kaise's broken sword. The monster surprises him with its tentacles. But before they reach Minato, they freeze in midair. This time, it's the mage controlling his body, making the boy leap without even needing to speak. The newest transcendent wields the sword, together with Raikiro using the Hinoki style. summoning the sea storm for the attack. The lightning that bursts from the sword is so powerful, it even manages to slice the monster in two. The result leaves Minato with a wide smile. Night falls, the full moon lighting up the darkness. A crow is the lone witness at the scene. On the phone, a man receives news that the monster was defeated before he even had the chance to get there. He's surprised as he didn't know powerful hunters were in the area. The crow managed to capture footage of the place. Upon discovering what happened, he asks if it really was a student from the hunter training school. That makes him smile, wanting to meet the boy in person. This is Midori Ichihara, the strongest transcendent in the world. Once again, he's on the phone speaking to Mr. Director, whom he hasn't contacted in a long time. Midori confirms the monster was classified as S rank and says the person who defeated it was the student Minato Kanji, which is strange considering the boy has failed the exam around 3 times. Having trouble believing it, he asks if the man can do him a favor. At school, students talk about the monster attack that happened the day before. One boy even mentions the aura that left him completely paralyzed. Boasting. Another asks how people would react if they knew he was the one who defeated the monster, but no one takes him seriously. The rumor going around is that the real hero is a student from that school. It almost sounds impossible, a student from there eliminating an S-rank creature. Meanwhile, Minato leans on a branch, shaking badly. He notices people are still talking about what happened the day before. Just then, a man shoves him, telling him to get out of the way. The tough guy thinks there's no way a weakling like the one he just bumped into could have fought that monster. Minato felt incredible when he fought the creature the day before. But the result of borrowing the powers of the progenitors left his body aching the next day. Laughing, a voice says he got tired way too easily. It's the Swordmaster Raikiro. Skipping formalities, the man tells the boy to get up and asks if he wasn't the one who said he'd surpassed the progenitors. That seems to spark Minato's curiosity. He remembers what was said during the fight, and that quickly gives him a bit of motivation. To help, the swordsman asks him to show some perseverance, but those watching wonder what's wrong. Meanwhile, Raikiro thinks something about him has changed. Modern transcendence seems so weak. No better than an average person on the street, and he thinks that if the tower were to appear now, the whole world would vanish. Suddenly, he senses something different. There's someone with an aura so vast it could swallow the others. Even Minato notices his strange expression and asks if something's wrong, but the man denies it. A man bursts out of the room yelling for the boy to come in immediately, making the spirit vessel think he's about to be expelled from school. He knows everyone gets 3 chances to take the exam, with the last being the ordinary test that gives any civilian a chance to become a hunter. But the man surprises him by telling him to go to the field. He's being tested again. The students who overhear this even comment they're not sure that's allowed. Minato isn't in peak physical condition, but he intends to give his best in the 100-yard dash, where the average time is 3.6 seconds and the top score is 2.7. The big guy from earlier talks about the boy's reputation as a loser who failed the test, and that his second chance is probably out of pity. A shot is fired, and Minato runs with everything he's got. He silences everyone by breaking the record with 1.2 seconds. The next test is a 1.8-mile run with an average time of 4 minutes, and the boy finishes in 1 minute and 17 seconds. He even surpasses expectations by doing 840 push-ups in 2 minutes. In the strength test, he bench presses 2,820 pounds. His records leave everyone shocked as he broke all previous ones, scoring twice as much. This makes them question if the boy is even human. He seems more like a beast. Meanwhile, Minato wonders if everything he just did was thanks to the progenitors once again lending their powers. But Raikiro questions why they would help with something so absurd. After all, they were just watching. In the principal's office, they're tallying up the boys' scores. Midori examines everything and is surprised by the records. The principal asks why she requested a retest, admitting that his athletic abilities are truly remarkable. However, the problem lies in his mana measurement. In all 3 tests, his level was immeasurable. In other words, he has 0 energy. That's why the man doesn't expect much from him. Knowing this, the girl tells Midori the Transcendent is probably wrong about Minato, which he doesn't take too seriously. The strongest man tells her to wait and see. The instruction is to spin the fan as many times as possible in 30 seconds, and the number of rotations will be the final score. Minato remembers that no matter how hard he tried, he was never able to do anything in the past 3 years. After all, he didn't even know how to feel it. But now he understands that it's all about circulation. Mana rises through the body starting from the tip of the right foot, flows through the entire body, and returns to its origin, with breathing used to control the flow. Then he fires it from the palm of his hand. The teen monitoring the test tells him to begin. A blue energy starts to circulate. From Minato's body, it flows toward the fan. It begins to spin, impressing everyone with how many rotations it's making. The spinning gets even stronger. The numbers start climbing without stopping. The fan is spinning so fast it becomes impossible to measure the numbers. Everything ends with an explosion and the device catches fire. The students are startled by the flames. It can even be seen from the principal's office. Something is heading toward them. The fan's blade ended up lodged in the ceiling. The old man nearly lost his hair. While his assistant is startled, Midori explains that the boy must be a special case like him. He says Minato is the second student in history since himself whose mana level was immeasurable. Not only is everyone around him shocked, even the boy himself is stunned by what just happened. In any case, the man congratulates him for successfully passing the hunter test, and he even broke all the new records. Minato looks at his hand, unable to believe any of it. Overcome with emotion, he can't believe all that power is inside him. But it's exactly as Reichiro expected. The moment he lent his body to the progenitors, his latent powers were awakened. Minato is not just an ordinary person with the mark of the void. For years, they have been waiting for someone like him. This boy will be the key to fulfilling their dreams. Suddenly, something catches the vessel's attention. A strong light appears, almost blinding him. Frightened, he asks the hero if it's some kind of explosion. However, this explains the powerful wave the swordsman felt that morning. With a smile, Midori appears. Realizing who it is leaves the boy completely shocked, and he wonders what the strongest transcendent in the world is doing there. The blonde man says he saw his performance during the test and congratulates Minato for passing. He says it's time for the bonus exam called Try to Land a Hit on the Strongest Transcendent in the World. Minato's jaw nearly drops to the floor in shock. Midori, 23 years old, became a hunter at just 9 and has been extremely active as a transcendent ever since. Able to wipe out 1,000 monsters with one strike and defeat weak hunters just with his aura, he nearly single-handedly resolved the pandemonium 10 years ago and the Kyushu crisis 5 years ago. A voice calls to him, leaving the boy even more terrified. With a wicked smile, Reichiro asks him to lend his body. Midori explains the only rule. All the boy needs to do is hit him within 1 minute. There's no penalty if he fails, but he warns that every 10 seconds, he'll attack. And the strongest transcendent says not to worry because I'll go easy, claiming he won't use any skills, but allowing Minato to use anything he wants. The blonde even brought a few weapons for him to choose from. The former loser is amazed and suspicious, wondering when the other prepared all this. He's confused about this bonus exam and questioning whether he's really about to fight a famous person for 1 whole minute. The boy asks if it's really okay to use a weapon, and Midori replies that his body is as strong as steel. Demonstrating his strength, the strongest transcendent says he can break any blade used against him. Meanwhile, the hero begs to help with this. Reichiro is thrilled, nearly bouncing off the walls with excitement, realizing not everyone is weak. So Minato realizes that his opponent is so powerful that even a progenitor is eager to fight. To be honest, he knows there's no way to defeat Midori. Thinking about all this is too much for the boy. In that case, there's only one thing to do. Students are hanging by the window, excited to see the duel about to begin. Meanwhile, the swordsman shouts for the boy to give him control of the body. Either way, Midori shows the timer on his phone, marking the start of the battle. The weapon Minato chooses is a sword. He runs in, ready to strike. Reichiro is terrified that the kid is doing this alone, thinking it's completely unfair. The boy knows it's totally reckless, but he wants to become a legend someday, and for that, he has to experience the power of a true fight. Despite his effort, he doesn't even manage to touch the opponent. Dodging every attack, Midori asks what social media the boy uses, since videos of the fight will be online soon. The others are amazed by the blonde's defense. He's doing it all without even looking up from his phone. Meanwhile, Minato tries with all his might to land a hit. To the strongest transcendent, the fight feels like child's play. The blade in the progenitor's vessel radiates mana. Although Midori is doing well, one of the students is actually impressed with Minato. Many would be exhausted after so many attacks. The boy shows no sign of slowing down. He keeps relentlessly seeking an opening, attacking with a diagonal strike, a horizontal split, even a shin attack. An audacious move aimed at the throat, but no success. However, Minato is amazed that his body is doing exactly what he wants and not tiring at all. He's not sure if it's because he lent his body to the progenitors, but he definitely feels something has changed. A touch to his forehead pulls him out of his thoughts. Finally, the 10 seconds have passed. A powerful blast of energy is released. Fortunately, Minato manages to dodge it. The boy is genuinely terrified by how powerful he is. Looking back, he sees the destruction left behind. Minato is stunned that this is what Midori considers holding back. If he had moved in time, he could have lost his head. But something feels off to Midori, who has never lost control of his power. He also doesn't sense any kind of threat from his opponent. Meanwhile, the vessel of the heroes finally realizes the danger. If he doesn't improve, he could end up being eliminated. He wants to remember how powerful he once was. Now the boy is even more determined. This change is noticed by Midori. Feeling more capable and confident, Minato is ready to attack again. Those watching the fight are amazed at how everything has become even faster. Not even the camera can keep up with them. This time, Midori also notices that his opponent is better than before with the sword. But he knows the boy was much faster when he defeated that grade 6 monster, which makes him wonder if Minato has a condition to activate his power, or if he's been faking it. Looking at the phone screen, he checks how much time is left. He's surprised there are still 41 seconds remaining in the fight. The blonde intends to be as gentle as possible. Once again, he makes that hand gesture, touching Minato square in the chest and launching his strike. With full force, the boy is thrown far back, crashing through a wall from the impact. The boy even spits out his own vital fluids. He can't believe this. He's actually fighting the strongest transcendent in the world, who hit him with just a direct attack. His former self would have been taken out by that hit, so this is all absolutely incredible. But he knows he's still not good enough to pass Midori's test yet, so he's going to keep trying his best for the rest of the exam. He walks past Midori, who doesn't even react. This makes him stop, puzzled by the blonde's behavior. Midori apologizes and says he's seen enough, with 30 seconds still left. With a single blow, he hits Minato in the back of the neck. That's the end for him. Midori knows the boy is talented, but not enough to be like him. He didn't see any of the power the boy displayed against the S-rank monster. Calling Rin, the blonde says they can head back and that unfortunately, his opponent was nothing to get excited about. Hearing that, Minato grips his sword. He didn't like the way Midori talked about him at all. Now standing, he's illuminated by that same energy. Taking advantage of the stubborn boy passing out, Raikiro finally gains control of his body. A swordsman calls out to the current strongest transcendent in the world. This shift is definitely noticed by Midori. In control, the long-haired man asks if he's ready for some real fun. It's Minato's turn to watch as someone else uses his body in action. This is finally what the strongest transcendent had been waiting for. Just a moment ago, this was the energy he felt, and what made him lose control of his power. Midori wonders if his opponent transformed into someone else, or if this is some kind of ability. Either way, it doesn't matter. The point is, he's become an absolute beast. Raikiro yells at him not to get distracted while talking. The blonde quickly notices that the movements are now completely different in speed, power, and how the sword is handled. A blade now just millimeters from striking his eye. He dodges before the hit can land. Midori starts making more necessary movements than before. Minato isn't playing around anymore, and that worries him. There's a murderous look in the boy's eyes, and he charges at his opponent with everything he's got. The energy emanating on the battlefield shatters windows and drives the crowd away. The blonde realizes that the sword strikes are no longer cautious or uncertain like before. He now carries the confidence of a seasoned warrior who understands his enemy. It's as natural as water flowing in a stream, or better yet, the unstoppable force of a powerful wave clearing everything in its path. In any case, he's starting to understand how the boy managed to eliminate the S-rank monster. Midori notes that there are now 40 seconds left, and it's his turn to attack. Still in control, Raikiro asks if he thinks he can't dodge something so obvious. The strongest transcendent is now several meters in the air far away. Laughing, he finds all of this incredible. Meanwhile, the others are shocked that Minato has pushed his opponent into a defensive stance. Bored, Raikiro tells them to forget the rules and for his rival to come at him with everything, and says if the blonde holds back, he'll make him regret it. The progenitor charges with his sword at full force. Midori stays focused, ready for whatever comes next. An unidentified object is thrown, and lands near the pile of weapons, causing every item to levitate. The swordsman looks up, realizing what's happening. In the middle of the storm of weapons stands Midori. With his weapon, the blonde is going all in. And that's exactly what the madman Raikiro wanted. The two collide in a blur that spectators can't quite understand, though they find it incredible. The battle takes place midair. This is undoubtedly the most grand and exciting fight the two have ever had. Raikiro is fully alert. Another progenitor is impressed that the boy is keeping up with him, and everyone else envies not being in the long-haired one's place. Minato's body isn't strong enough to fully withstand the swordsman's power. Noticing this, the old man considers helping, but they ask him to stay put. Otherwise, he'll just get in the way. Meanwhile, the mage is the only one who seems truly concerned about the real Minato watching the fight. Raikiro performs strikes like diagonal slashes and uppercuts. He moves with his wrist. The man teaches him to swing upward followed by an uppercut and shift the center of gravity forward. All of this results in the blade shattering into multiple pieces. The swordsman laments the loss of his sword. Meanwhile, Midori finds it impressive. It's getting him excited. He announces that there are only 10 seconds left and asks what the boy intends to do. Suddenly, Raikiro jumps out of the arena. The spectators are confused, unsure what he's planning. He borrows a sword from the bully who shoved Minato earlier. Before he can even return, the fight resumes. Midori charges directly at him. The attack causes serious damage to the school's structure. But with Raikiro still in control of the body, he comes out unscathed. The two resume their airborne battle. While they're having fun fighting, the other students worry that the whole building might collapse at this rate. Midori's attention shifts to the fan blade that broke loose. He grabs the propeller stuck in the structure. His strength causes part of the object to crack. The swordsman watches carefully what he's doing. And while still in the air, the current top transcendent in the world grips the blade and takes aim. The best is yet to come. It's the Kanoki-style sword technique. Lightning splits the fan blade in multiple directions, turning the object into tiny cubes. Midori laughs, finding it the most amazing thing ever. But the sword Raikiro borrowed also shatters. Now it's the blonde's turn. He has 60 seconds, and it's his time to strike. He aims directly at Minato's body. His immense power is even felt by the spirits. Minato grabs onto the swordmaster. This allows him to gain momentum and reclaim control of his own body. The first thing he sees when he's back in control is Midori ready to attack. Their hands meet at the moment of impact, and the full force of the blow lands there. Both Midori and Raikiro are shocked by what they see. The boy's hand is completely injured, but even so, he's already preparing his next strike, still wanting to know if his rival can block it. And then he finally lands a hit on the strongest transcendent in the world. Dueling between Supreme Masters is a rare sight. Amidst attacks, counterattacks, and non-stop defenses, the two warriors search for the right answer. Almost like a breathtaking match between two chess grandmasters, and all anyone can do is step back and watch in awe. That's how it is with Raikiro. It was just for a brief moment, but the boy tried something not even that guy had thought of before. He unlocked an entirely new path, a direct attack, even after a hit. All he hoped for was a single strike to land. However, not everything goes as planned. His hand stopped just inches from his opponent's face. Unfortunately, he wasn't strong enough to land the blow. But Midori has a plan in mind, and the strongest man in the world makes the ex-loser touch his face. With a smile, he tells Minato he passed. The building is in complete chaos. The spectators wonder who the winner really is. Midori calls out to his assistant. Rin asks where they're going, and the blonde explains that the boy passed, asking if she can heal his arm. The students are shocked to hear that Minato actually passed the test. Realizing that he really did land a hit on Midori, they all cheer. Meanwhile, the assistant tells him not to move as she's healing his arm. With a kind smile, Rin congratulates him for passing. More at ease, he thanks her for both that and the healing, until he realizes what she really said, suddenly sitting up in alarm to understand what's going on. Midori himself asks if he doesn't remember, saying he's offended by that. He says maybe he gave a few bonus points, but either way, the boy passed. The blonde praises the combos in the middle of the fight, but Minato knows it was all Raikiro. However, what really surprised Midori was when the boy managed to dodge his final attack. To him, that was particularly impressive, and he says the boy should be proud of himself. Impressed by the words, the host of the progenitors thanks him. There is something Minato wants to know, so he asks if he gets anything for passing the test. Even Rin waits for the blonde's answer. Midori seems caught off guard by his own plan. Minato waits for his response. They look toward the destroyed room, and soon night falls. Dinner is being prepared. In the kitchen, Minato's mother asks how many people will be eating with them. A bit nervous, he says he's not sure, but assures her at least one person will. In any case, the lady considers it a perfect day because he passed the exam and was observed by a very famous person. Very happy about these things, she prepares the food. The woman says she always knew he could do great things if he committed himself. Feeling a little nervous about hosting someone famous, she says their home will look like a doghouse, but the boy denies that Midori would think that way. Finally, after finishing cleaning, the boy throws himself on the bed to rest. With the card in his hand, he remembers the day when Rin knocked Midori down for not telling her anything beforehand. Trying to ease the situation, the blonde asks Minato to confirm he told her earlier that if he passed, the two would work together, but he denies it. Even in pain, the famous man says there are too many curious eyes around for that scene. He asks if it's okay to go to his house at night to better discuss the details. Subjects like the options he will offer and about the real enemy. And that last one is what Minato is worried about. After all, the progenitors destroyed the tower a long time ago. What the hunters have been doing is defeating monsters that escaped from a dimensional rift. He thought that was all and wonders if they do more than that. A voice calls Minato several times until it startles him. It's Raikiro who called him. Everyone else is there too, which worries the body borrower, who asks if something is wrong. The swordsman says they have finished the discussion. Startled, Minato asks if they were deciding who will take care of his body. That's exactly what the discussion was about. Nervous, the boy waits for what he has to say. However, he stands up saying he believes Midori has already arrived. When he gets downstairs, everything is dark and silent. Something catches the boy's attention. He yells for his mother, who is lying on the floor. Once again, the boy calls out to her. Minato rushes to reach her, sensing there is someone in the house. He notices it out of the corner of his eye. The person is messing with the food, grabbing some and putting it in their mouth. The figure complains that it's garbage, it tastes so bad. He tells Minato he's going to teach his mother a lesson so she can learn to serve better quality meat to guests. The boy asks what was done to his mother, but the intruder tells him to watch what he says. Introducing himself as Goro Haitani, an S-rank hunter who is there to take him and says he works with Midori. Then he tells the boy to hurry and grab his things so they can go to headquarters. But at that moment, Minato only thinks of attacking him. He's struck violently by the man. With a wicked grin, Goro laughs. He asks if the boy really wants to fight. Minato looks at the mess in the kitchen, thinking immediately about how his mother is. He also remembers when he lost his father and she promised she would take good care of her son. Also when he suggested she get new shoes and she said it was fine, telling him not to worry since she had bought a new pair. His mother wished him a good day in the morning and promised to prepare his favorite food, tonkatsu, for dinner. Once again, Minato asks what the man did to her. Meanwhile, the others watch. To Raikiro, this is perfect, though he thinks he's copying that idiot Midori. This fight is their chance to decide what they'll do with him, because Minato has no intention of ignoring this matter. With the same smile, Goro says the boy is very adorable. He raises his hand to strike. However, the boy remains in place, not intending to get out of the way, stopping his hand midair, and with one move he takes the man down. The old man is watching the fight. Despite his age, he still knows a few tricks. Everything feels so quiet, until Goro is thrown out of the house. Minato rushes out after him. The man is startled, wondering if that move was some kind of Hapkido technique. Having seen the video of the fight with Midori, he thought the boy only had a powerful aura and sword skills. He has to admit, the kid is stronger than an A-rank hunter like Kaisei. Impatient, Minato demands an answer to his question. The boy wants to know what he did to his mother. The woman appears to be affected by some strange substance, but Goro simply says that, judging by his tone, the boy must already know. He poisoned her for getting in the way and put her to sleep. He adds that if the brat is lucky, the woman might only have some mild side effects once she recovers. But Minato says he didn't understand any of that. Shocked, the lanky man asks what he means. The boy asks why he would hurt the family of someone who's supposed to be his comrade. That makes Goro laugh as if he just heard the funniest joke in the world. Calling him an idiot, the man tries to land a blow, but the boy manages to dodge just in time. The man denies being anyone's comrade. He says he's just a polite, obedient puppet who will do whatever they say, and that the only way to make a weakling listen is to take someone important as a hostage. Minato keeps dodging the attacks, but in the middle of the fight, his foot is stepped on. That gives Goro the chance to land another hit. Then he pulls back, putting a good distance between them. The boy wonders what's really happening, feeling his face heat up. A purplish mark starts spreading across his cheek. Looking at the lanky man, he notices sharp blades and a strange liquid oozing from his fingers. It's his turn to taste the poison. He can create millions of different types within his body. If he wanted, he could flood a 5-kilometer radius with deadly gas, but he's not allowed to do that in crowded urban areas. The poison will kill Minato in exactly 1 minute, and the antidote will only be given if he agrees to join the guild. But all the boy can think about is the gas. And now he understands why people refer to beings like this as environmental disasters in human form. The more time passes, the more the liquid spreads. He then asks if the sovereign apothecary Warrantine is inside him. Apologizing to the woman for the trouble, the boy asks if she wouldn't mind giving him an antidote soon. Meanwhile, Goro asks who he's talking to and if it's the fear of dying that's making him hallucinate. Minato asks if he remembers the Hapkido technique he used a minute ago. He says that was courtesy of Hyomakoto, the hand of God. The older man realizes that, just as he thought, the boy copied his technique after seeing it only once. Then there's the Bane of Hordes from Raikiro Hinoki, as well as the Blue Death Spear from Calcus Shima. Mulgith, the wielder of many bows. He's read the stories of the progenitors so many times that he memorized everything. It's been his greatest life wish to be like them. And now he reveals, they're inside him. This catches Goro off guard, trying to understand. Minato says, in other words, there's no reason to be afraid of him. That seems to irritate the lanky man. He says that if fear doesn't affect him, then he'll use pain. He says the next poison will make the boy beg for his suffering to end. His liquid spreads into the air, killing the living leaves of a nearby tree. Goro says that if he surrenders, he'll at least get the serum, though it won't restore his mind after it's broken by excruciating pain. Minato is cornered and defenseless, but he doesn't seem to fear any harm. An aura lights up his body, and he strikes his opponent with the legendary Fist of Tak Wan, hitting the man square in the chest and making him spit up his own vital fluid. The hero watches the fight impressed. Goro, on the other hand, is sent flying. But Minato isn't finished with him yet. This time he uses the Shining Foot, a technique from the progenitor Eilerson, who watches the fight, amazed. The man is kicked so hard that his feet tear up the asphalt beneath him. Minato keeps advancing toward him. In one last attempt, Goro tries to poison him, but the boy simply breaks his blades, then lands the Carlisle Beak Strike, followed by Rowan's Dragon Claw, leaving the strange pink progenitor impressed. Grabbing him, the boy uses the Intruder, this time a technique from Lilac. That move sends the man spinning into the air like a top. Goro has no idea what just happened. After all, when he attacks someone with his poison, they usually become terrified and disoriented from fear as it damages the neural system, leaving them unable to move. He wonders how it was possible to break free from that. Now it's the Mage of Truth's turn. Minato's finger lights up with golden lightning and he casts Molestius Silentius. As he conjures, the lightning becomes even larger, striking its target. The progenitors watch everything, impressed. Then Raikiro asks if they really saw that. That day when they eliminated Technomatora, they had only lent their powers once, and yet he copied it, including the physics and magical abilities, and he's not even sure if that's because of the Mark of the Void. But in that case, the swordsman finds it all very exciting. He says they must do everything they can to help the boy. After all, they are the progenitors. If they work together and teach him everything, Minato could become the greatest transcendent that has ever existed. The boys run between the buildings. They know that right now 15 other guilds are on their way to recruit the boy who fought Midori Ichihara, so they don't want to be too late. Suddenly, the blonde appears, surprising them by mentioning how many are after Minato. Smiling, the strongest transcendent asks if it's really 15. In that case, he declares they are the last. The guy is caught off guard by Midori's blast. The shot sends the opponent crashing to the ground. On the phone, he speaks with Rin. She reports she's arrived at the scene and thankfully doesn't sense any transcendence in the area. But there's something that catches her attention. The assistant says someone has already beaten them there, because Goro Haitani, an S-rank hunter and poison user, is lying near Minato's house. The man is on the ground, and judging by his face, he doesn't look good. Hearing this makes Midori laugh. He says it's amazing, and that he knew the boy had something special inside, but still can't believe he defeated an S-rank. The blonde asks if he's injured or poisoned, but the boy claims he's fine. His mother is lying on the couch. Minato says she's fine too. Hearing all this, Raikiro says that if it weren't for Warrantine, he and his mother would already be wandering the depths of the underworld. Surprised that it took her only 5 seconds to remove the poison, the woman confesses to having extracted a little of Goro's serum. Midori apologizes for the delay and says many guilds are after him after watching the video of the fight. Minato asks if Goro lied about them being partners, and the blonde says many use that tactic to manipulate others. The strongest transcendent asks his assistant if she's done, and she confirms. Rin has restored the walls and the fence. With that, he declares they should come in and talk. Midori says they need to have a conversation about Minato's future. A new day begins. His mother asks if he's packed everything, and he confirms. She's still worried about his future. The night before, Midori said he wanted to recruit Minato. With a smile, the blonde said the boy has great potential, and with his guidance, he'll become an excellent hunter. That excites the progenitor's vessel, who says he was discovered as a talent by Midori Ichihara. But that only brought his mother to tears. For the farewell, the woman prepared breakfast for him in a disposable container so he wouldn't need to bring anything back. Minato's expression is somber. She asked if her son would be exposed to many dangers. Being completely honest, Midori confirms her suspicion. The woman says her son has always admired the legendary progenitors and that this has been his main motivation to become a hunter. Feeling deeply honored to have raised him as a mother, she's also worried for his safety. Midori says this job involves countless dangers, some impossible to predict. But he assures her he will train Minato to be a powerful and skilled warrior like the progenitors he always looks up to. The mother's eyes fill with emotion. Then she thanks him for what he's doing for her son. In the car, Rin asks if he's sure he can keep that promise. After all, no one can predict the future. Through the rearview mirror, he watches the interaction between mother and son. The woman gives Minato advice like not sleeping on a full stomach and remembering to separate colored clothes when washing. With that, Midori says he'll keep his word as best as he can. Either way, it's time to go. Looking back with a gentle smile, Minato asks his mother to take care of herself. And so the woman watches her son depart. Then she calls out to him. The mother asks him to come home for New Year's. With teary eyes, he looks back at her. At last, Minato sets off the new phase of his life. But then Midori asks if he's really ready to go, and the boy confirms. The vessel of the progenitors says that if he looks at his mother one more time, he might be afraid of changing his mind. Since it's a long trip, the blonde tells him to relax, either by eating something or getting some sleep. Minato looks at the bag his mother gave him. Inside is his packed lunch. He opens the container holding his food. His eyes shine with emotion. It's his favorite meal. On top of that, his mother wrote him a note wishing him good luck. Remembering everything they've been through together, he thanks her for everything. While eating, the boy cries, moved by how delicious the food is. Rin seems like a serious and indifferent person. Meanwhile, Midori relaxes in the passenger seat, and so each of them enjoys the trip. It's quite sunny in the mountains. Looking out the window, Minato asks what place this is. With a smile, Midori welcomes him. This is a special state agency to which very few transcendents belong. It's called the Counter Prophecy Unit, or CPU, and once again, he welcomes him to the headquarters. Minato gets curious about the name of the place. From a window, someone watches them. The man announces that the new arrival has finally come. It's the new person now joining them. The woman with the teacup asks if they have a new teammate. The boy says it's always exciting to have fresh blood. The redhead just wants to see for himself if this person will truly become a partner to them, because only time will tell if he's truly worthy of belonging to the Counter Prophecy Unit. This is Minato's new challenge. Curious, the boy asks more about the place. He apologizes for asking so many questions and says it's because he doesn't really know what it means. He thought he'd be joining the same guild the blonde is part of. First, Rin apologizes for not explaining it earlier. Since it's a state secret, they couldn't tell his mother anything. Midori advises him to put his things in the dormitory, and the assistant even offers to carry them, but Minato declines. Suddenly, a boy appears mid-air, offering to show him the way. He goes straight in for an attack on the progenitor vessel, and is surprised to have his strike blocked. Minato thinks his opponent is strong. The strange boy makes another leap away, and lands on the ground with mastery. He introduces himself as Hikotaro Hanada, member of the CPU. Watching the interaction, Midori asks the woman to serve some tea, all just to enjoy the fight. Minato says they're part of the same guild, so he asks why he's doing this. The answer is that this is the best way to teach him about the place, and also a chance to test his skills. The dark-haired boy remains on defense, and Hikotaro continues his attacks. Minato blocks the kick, but still feels the force of the impact. The blonde asks if he'd like to know how the Counter Prophecy Unit was formed. Meanwhile, the other is amazed that he can fight while talking. Hikotaro asks him for his name. Minato then introduces himself. Meanwhile, Midori calmly sips his tea. He remembers the boy passing the hunter exam, then the bonus test. After that, he was tested by an S-rank hunter, and now he's being tested at headquarters. It makes it seem like the boy was born to be tested, and Rin says she doesn't think there's a cure for that. The woman reminds Midori that it was he who brought the boy in. In the middle of the fight, Hikotaro asks what hunters do, and Minato replies that their job is to quickly eliminate monsters that escape from dimensional rifts. The correct answer makes the blonde smile. To add to that, he says they're a kind of exterminator. The next question is about other calamities. That kind of confuses the progenitor vessel. So the blonde kid explains that from time to time there are calamities so terrible that dimensional rifts don't even compare. Like the pandemonium incident that occurred 10 years ago, or the Kyushu outbreak 5 years ago. Surprised, Minato says he thought those were caused by major dimensional rifts. He nearly loses an eye. Hikotaro hasn't forgotten that they're still in a duel. He says that's what's taught in training schools and also what civilians believe. But that's not the whole story. Before revealing the truth, he uses the chance to launch another attack. Things are a bit different than what's told. Meanwhile, everything shakes from the impact. The tree the other boy was using for cover is destroyed by the kick. These situations were actually invasions from another dimension, a kind of extreme crisis on the same level as the monster tower that appeared 300 years ago. This leaves Minato completely shocked. And the worst part is that these creatures still haven't given up on their invasion. Someone from that other dimension has been watching everyone, waiting for an opportunity to strike. For some reason, Transcendents are weaker compared to the time of the tower, and only a small number are as powerful as the progenitors. And that's why they're here. Those with the ability to see and predict the future do their best to anticipate any possible calamities. A small group of elite fighters does everything they can to prevent them, and that's where they come in, with the CPU. Quite proud, Midori watches their conversation. But Minato still wants to make sure he understood it correctly, saying that the CPU is an organization that fights against prophecies. Hikotaro confirms, saying that none of the others that were able to block so many kicks in a row. With a big smile, he says it's a great pleasure to meet him and welcomes him. Midori enjoys watching the scene. Suddenly, the kicking boy calls everyone's attention, announcing that the dark-haired one passed his test. Something had been watching them all along. It's the other transcendents from the CPU. Then Hikotaro asks them if Minato is one of them now. They disappear without a word, surprising even Midori. The kicking boy then says that maybe they'll have to test the progenitor's vessel themselves. With that, he decides to show him around while carrying his suitcase to the dormitory. It doesn't take long for night to fall. Minato is in his private room. He thinks about how whenever there's a prophecy of a global threat, the CPU's job is to fight and make sure it doesn't come true. He wonders if one day there will be a calamity as terrible as that tower that required all the progenitors to bring it down, and whether he'll be strong enough to fight it. Suddenly, he realizes he's starting to worry about this when Reichiro appears saying the best thing is to train a lot. This catches the boy completely off guard. Not only is the swordsman there, but also other notable heroes. He says he didn't get the chance to tell him earlier because things kept happening, but he wants to inform him of what all the progenitors have decided. The decision is that they're going to make Minato the most powerful transcendent in history, surpassing Midori and everyone else. After all, he has the potential to become the greatest. So they want Minato Kaneki to study with the progenitors. This leaves the boy quite stunned. He asks the heroes if they really want him as their disciple. He's still trying to understand the reason. After all, he thought all they wanted was to take over his body. Reichiro says he wouldn't mind that, but in that case, they'd all have to fight over it, and Minato asks them not to fight because of him. The swordsman reveals that this was indeed their original intention, but seeing him in action changed their minds. They found a better idea than using his body, and everyone seems satisfied with the new plan. They thought it would be more interesting to train him. Reichiro asks if he remembers the poison user he defeated, even though he had only seen some of his techniques once. The boy managed to copy them perfectly, though the techniques were nowhere near as precise as when the progenitors used them. At the very least, he won the fight. Reichiro asks if he has any idea how impressive that was. He's not sure if it's because of the Mark of the Void, but the swordsman believes the boy's greatest talent is absorbing other people's abilities, and that makes him better than the progenitors. The moment Minato heard Reichiro say that, he couldn't stop himself from crying. His memories went back to his exams, when they said he might be hopeless, and how many laughed at him, asking what he was trying to do. No one ever believed in him. Many called him a loser, saying he would never amount to anything. Minato had never heard of anyone who failed the hunter exam 3 times in a row, so many judged him, asking why he couldn't just give up. Or that day when reporters said knowing who he was didn't matter. Even Casey, who tried to eliminate him, didn't even know his name. No one ever wondered if he had a future, but then Minato met them, and Midori told his mother that he has great potential. Reichiro also said he had the ability to become the greatest transcendent in the world. Because of everything that has happened to him, he wonders if he truly deserves this. Crying, Minato asks if he's allowed to be happy, at least once in his life. He's admired these people for so many years and never in his dreams imagined he would get to meet them. At the moment, the progenitors are there, saying they believe in him. Reichiro, though confused by the reaction, allows himself a small smile. Then he asks the boy why he's crying. After all, they live and breathe through him, especially while Minato is asleep, when they are even more free from time and space. The swordsman says he has big plans for him, and from this moment on, promises to train him 100 hours in real time every day. During the day, the boy will help the CPU fight against prophecy. But during the night, things will be different, because the progenitors will train him while he sleeps. From that moment forward, Minato will have no more rest. Reichiro assumes he's already ready for that. The boy reflects on the words. Still shedding tears, he agrees. He's completely honored to learn from all of them. This small meeting takes place at night, and soon morning arrives. Keiko is trying to pick up on the sounds around him. Soon the noise of footsteps is heard. With a smile, he turns to greet the person. Minato wishes him good morning, and he quickly notices how tired the dark-haired boy looks. The vessel of the progenitors says it's because he's still adjusting, and the blonde laughs, saying his first day was the same. But Hiko senses something more. He notices a faint aura around the boy. Then his eyes widen in realization. The blonde tries another one of his kicks, but Minato simply dodges it and spits. With a smile, the former loser asks for a moment since he hasn't fully woken up yet, saying he'll see him in the hall. Heiko is left very confused by it all, finding it strange because his kick was faster than the day before. Everyone gathers for breakfast in the CPU's dining hall. Together with Minato, the blonde kid is happy to see one of the good spots is free. But there's someone else already at the table. Being polite, he asks if the girl would mind them joining her. She keeps eating and Hiko sits down, telling the boy beside him to do the same. Soon Minato remembers that this woman is one of the people the kicking boy mentioned. Finally, she speaks and says he must be the new kid, and gets the feeling she's not happy to see him. But with a smile, the former loser introduces himself. However, she says she doesn't care and doesn't want to know his name. Pointing her fork at him threateningly, she says she'll call him by name when he proves his worth. It's time for training, and soon they'll be handling a prophecy. And she declares that Minato will be involved too. In 1945, the first prophecy book was discovered in Antarctica. It was buried under almost 3 kilometers of ice. The book was retrieved by a man. The title was written in a crooked, almost childlike script and contained descriptions of various calamities that would destroy the entire world in the next 80 years. The question is, Do they really believe in the prophecies? Minato apologizes for changing the subject, but he doesn't know her name yet. Still, the girl says it doesn't matter and that he should just answer the question. He responds that it's because the prophecies have come true, but she tells him not to play dumb. The girl with lilac eyes says that if even one had come true, the entire world would have been wiped out, and knowing that scares him. Desperate, Minato asks the blonde how many prophecies exist. Smiling, Hiko says about 200, which scares him even more, and he asks if that means the world could end at any moment. To reassure him, Midori reveals that the CPU has managed to stop about 180 of them. The vessel of the progenitors returns to the topic of people believing in prophecy, but the lilac-eyed girl brings up the explorer who discovered the Book of Doom. His name was Barnard Russell. She asks if the boy knows what he saw when he opened the book and looked at the first page. It made the explorer's eyes go wide. There was a greeting with his name, as well as detailed information about how he would find the book. In the city of Sumida, Tokyo, there's a medium-sized dimensional rift. The lilac-eyed girl approaches as police officers ask her to step back from the restricted area, but none of them obey the authorities' orders. Then the girl talks about the Third World War, the dark side of the moon, the biological attack, the giant flying tree, all events with disaster potential that were resolved by high-ranking transcendence. Midori, in fact, recently took care of the Pandemonium incident. In any case, the Book of Doom isn't the only prophecy book in existence, leading to the conclusion that there are all kinds. To gather, analyze, and resolve them, the counter-prophecy unit was created and exists to this very day. There's a job system with 4 risk levels, starting from level 1, which covers local neighborhood threats, up to emergency level involving global annihilation. Minato asks if they're going to the rift to stop another prophecy, and the girl confirms, saying it's normal for CPU members. Sensing their approach, the man in the suit alerts Kurasagi, and Yu believes these unknown people are just civilians. The man tells them to stay back due to the gravity of the situation. The girl quickly explains they're dealing with a level 3 prophecy of medium size. She says it's written in the Golden Poetry Anthology, a third-class prophecy book. Then the girl says as the rift opens. This leaves everyone startled, not understanding what's happening. Immediately, A-rank monsters emerge from it. Kurasagi gets into combat stance. The man fires the first barrage. However, the humanoid wolves are already causing major destruction. He realizes this might be too difficult for B and C rank members to handle, and besides that, he has a bad feeling about the energy. To make things worse, the boss monster is about to come out. The man then looks at the strangers. In his eyes, they seem very calm. Kurasagi says there's no reason for civilians to be there. Ignoring him, the girl summons Trismegistus. A liquid metal forms around her hand, and then transforms into several blades. The wolves begin attacking people, but they are quickly impaled by her spears. Not a single monster is left standing after her attack. It's time for the yellow lightning. Hiko immediately kicks everyone in his path. Impressed, Kurasagi wonders who these people are. They seem more powerful than him, and he's an S-rank hunter. Then the purple-eyed girl says that, at the moment, he is the civilian, not them. The man notices the marks, suspecting they're from a government organization. Suddenly, huge claws and even more terrifying eyes than those of the smaller evil wolves emerge from the rift. Even they realize this is a big problem. This creature is at least an S-rank monster. It's the wild beast, Gilliornal. As they charge forward, Kurasagi, terrified, tells them to be careful. Each one attacks the monster from a different side. However, Heko realizes his kicks aren't working on the creature. He believes it's wearing armor resistant to physical attacks. Gilliornal targets the girl. She uses her liquid to shield herself. Suddenly, Minato appears in front of her. The boy is surrounded by that powerful aura, and he uses only his hand to stop the giant wolf. The creature tries to push through with brute force, but every attempt to advance just causes damage to its armor. A powerful explosion occurs. The scene of the fight leaves everyone amazed. It was a close-range strike, and Hiko says that's pretty much how it's done. The blonde boy wonders how Minato managed to defeat an S-rank monster with just one blow, even though he sensed something different that morning. Then he realizes the boy has become almost unbelievably stronger than the day before. But the purple-eyed girl breaks the mood and tells Minato he could have said what he was going to do first. The boy knows that when facing a physically resistant opponent, one must gather energy and destroy them from the inside. He learned this technique the night before with Takwam, the legendary fist. Fist strike is the most basic type of punch technique. Minato still can't believe it came in handy so soon. Stopping his thoughts, he turns to the girl. Then he asks if she wouldn't mind sharing her name now, saying it's easier to ask for help when they're inside. And she introduces herself to the new guy as Akane Shinomiya. Without wasting time, Hiko continues his kicks. The other wolves suffer from the liquid expelled by the purple-eyed girl. She then uses Mercurius Reject. Seeing the devastation, the blonde boy says Minato was right. Akane agrees too, realizing that attacking the creatures from the inside is more effective. Then she calls the new guy. It's time to end it. Kurasagi thinks this is madness. After all, inside the rift is another dimension, and he thinks it's the kind of decision only a fool would make. But Minato immediately agrees with the idea, and they enter that broken fragment of another world. The man stays frozen, looking like a fool. He's never seen anyone like those three, assuming they really are part of the secret organization he heard rumors about. More giant wolves appear to attack. Akane notices they're the same as the ones that came out of the rift. She's tired of dealing with these things. She fires her mercury in all directions, transforming it into spears. Watching that, Minato is impressed by the girl's abilities, and the blonde boy explains that she's stronger when it comes to wide area damage attacks. An even bigger armored wolf appears. She calls for Hiko, who quickly comes to lend a hand. Before the monster can land an attack, he leaps. The boy even teases it, saying he's up on the ceiling. Hiko is very agile with his rapid shots. This whole scene leaves Minato impressed. But now it's his turn to play too. Just like the kicking boy, he mimics his moves, and the blonde kid is happy his friend can copy his techniques. There's so much to do, and they run without wasting time. Unfortunately, Akanen can't see what's ahead, which means they'll soon face something bigger. Something makes the progenitor vessel feel confused. He wants to know what this large, empty room is. Suddenly, something is approaching, drawing their attention. Just the footsteps make the ground shake. Minato shouts that the thing is huge and terrifying, and Hiko believes it's the boss. The monster roars loudly. They'll have to face the blind Minotaur, and S-rank even larger. Looking calm, Akanen says it finally appeared and asks if it's really the boss of this place. Without waiting for an answer, she already summons her Trismegistus. A circle forms around the giant Minotaur. Blades begin to emerge from the light. It's her powerful El Dorado. She has a rule she never breaks. Whenever she encounters a powerful enemy, she defeats it with her strongest attack right from the start. So trying to hold the boss off as long as possible, she asks them to finish it for her. It's Hiko's turn, and he says he wishes he had flashy skills like hers. But either way, the boy is here and tells her not to worry. Meanwhile, Minato watches the powerful duo. However, he knows the type of attack is wrong. Hearing that makes the blonde boy uneasy, but Akanen asks if he's criticizing her powerful move. Suddenly, the Minotaur makes a new move, making them realize the new guy might actually be right. The creature's power blast is even more devastating. It destroys part of the large room with a single strike. There's not even a scratch on it despite all their attacks. That triggers a warning in them as they realize the real danger. Suddenly, one of the progenitors says the girl is extremely gifted. This leaves the boy confused about what Killick is talking about. Then he explains that she has everything: spellcasting, precision, and even style. Rarely seeing such incredible skills in someone so young. The alchemist says she deserves top marks for her strategy, and under normal circumstances, she could have easily defeated the enemy. But he knows there's one problem. She ignored the boss's immunity to physical attacks. Minato then asks how they'll manage to defeat the Minotaur. Rather than explain, the progenitor prefers to show him. Unaware of the conversation, Hiko deduces the monster's immunity, which makes Akanen regret not bringing a mage. What she didn't count on is that the progenitor vessel always has a trick up his sleeve. Killick asks to borrow Minato's body to give the young lady a demonstration. Mercurius is launched with even more power. The liquid sticks to the monster, keeping it in place. That gives the lilac-eyed girl chills from the display. She demands that Minato explain how the hell he used her ability, but then wants to know what the boy is trying to do. Calling her a fool, it's the alchemist in control, and he says physical attacks don't work. He explains it's the result of being overly specialized in just one thing. She still has much to learn. He also says a true alchemist must be able to distinguish between the three states of matter and use them properly. With Mercury under his command, he makes the monster heat up as if it were being boiled in a pot. Killick is attacking with heat instead of physical force, and he's making the liquid boil. Thinking it's still Minato, the girl can't believe he can control temperature so easily. Meanwhile, the alchemist tells his student that he's extremely impressed by Akanen and would like to make her his disciple. The monster collapses to the ground. Its mission was to carry out the grade 3 prophecy described in the Golden Poetry Anthology. Minato deserves congratulations for defeating the blind Minotaur boss. The mission is finally complete. Despite the celebration, Akanen can't believe what just happened. After all, Transcendents are only supposed to specialize in the techniques of whatever mark they have. She thought Minato was like Hiko. While she's lost in thought, the boy extends his hand. With a smile, he says his name again and asks Akan Shinomiya to remember it. It feels like an insult, which irritates her. The only option left is for her to accept it. CMC makes Hiko happy that his partner has accepted the new guy as a member of the CPU. Kurosagi and his team remain outside until one of them notices the rift is closing. They want to understand what's happening. Suddenly, Minato emerges from the rift. Heko is the next to come out, and the ex-loser tries to help the girl out as well. Everyone around looks on in amazement that they survived. The rift keeps closing, and now all that's left is to report the end of the mission. Someone calls out to Minato. It's Kurosagi, who thanks him for saving him and his team. The man is curious to know who they are and what happened inside the rift, though he believes they don't have clearance to talk about it. Akane steps forward and says that when he writes the mission report, all he has to do is draw the symbols. That way, no one will ask questions. He agrees and says he'll get in touch if it happens again. But the purple-eyed girl tells him not to worry. It's something extremely rare. She makes it clear they won't be seen again and that Kurosagi and his men can go back to their normal lives. The man laughs, realizing that they're the civilians here. On May 11, in a cave village within Im Prefecture, a red lightning bolt shoots by at high speed. Something very strange is happening there. Back at the CPU headquarters, Akane mentions they need to write the report, but Hiko informs them they've been summoned to the research lab. Arriving at conference room 3, it appears empty. They notice something feels off. There are 2 people in the room, and the redhead calls out to Akane. He wants to know why they took so long. After all, it was just a level 3 mission. Minato quickly remembers he was one of the members observing him that day. Hiko tells the redhead to take it easy. After all, he's not the leader here. Getting straight to the point, he asks the director why they were called. Curry, however, asks them to look at a photo received from the interpretation team. Akane is the first to ask if the strange object is a lump of coal. Then he reveals it's actually a prophecy book. It was found near a volcano, which made it very difficult to decipher. Curious, Minato asks how someone managed to do it. The man says it's thanks to recent AI technology that successfully decoded part of the text. There's a lot of information, but one detail in particular concerns Japan. Shocked, Akane asks if it's a completely new prophecy. The rookie asks if that's not common, but Hiko reveals it's the first time he's heard of something like this. CPU is also respected among researchers, and that's why they're able to gather prophecies from all over the world, but there has never been a new prophecy like this before. In this case, Shinji tells the director he assumes he's going to ask the four of them to investigate. Agreeing, the man says the regular members will have to carry out the real strike, but they're all currently on other missions. Since these four are available, he'd like them to conduct the initial investigation of the prophecy and says he'll send an email with the details. What surprises Minato is that they're being sent on another mission right away. To them, it's normal, and the rookie realizes he really should have taken seriously how tough this job would be. Either way, the redhead accepts the mission. Taking the lead, he calls the other three his subordinates, irritating the purple-eyed girl. There's no rating yet for the prophecy, so they're told to be cautious, and if it shows signs of fulfillment, they must wait until reinforcements arrive. Minato gets thoughtful about this special mission, which involves something completely unknown, and it makes him nervous. Shinji tells them to rest so they don't mess up the mission, but Akane fires back that he's not the boss and she doesn't need sleep. But the rookie disagrees, saying he's going to close his eyes for a few minutes. Even Hiko agrees with the idea. Their sleep is Akane's defeat. Still resisting, she says she's not going to sleep. But it doesn't take long for the girl to lose the battle. Suddenly, someone yells her name and Akane wakes up alarmed, insisting she didn't sleep. She gets mad at Minato for not waking her up, but the rookie tells her to look around. There's something much stranger going on. Confused, she asks what he means. Strange scarlet columns are all over the place. Hiko says this is very serious. He says it won't be long before the prophecy becomes reality. Akane says this is the largest magic circle she's ever seen, and that the columns must contain the remains of the 23 villagers mentioned in the report. Shinji finds it similar to the case of the vanished apartment in Wakayama Prefecture, where a hole to another dimension nearly opened. Suddenly, the columns begin to glow. Noticing this, Akane declares there's no time to waste. Hiko asks what the plan is. Grabbing his weapon, Shinji declares that they're obviously going to stop the prophecy. Then Akane reminds him of what the director said. Behind him, a surge of energy startles them. As always, the powerful aura comes from Minato. With a smile, the boy asks if they're ready to begin. The lilac-eyed girl is impressed. Hiko notices that he's stronger than he was in the morning. Seeing this, Shinji says there's no reason to wait. Leaping forward, he tells them to follow him. Akane doesn't waste time complaining that he's not the leader. The columns are emitting an even stronger light. Then the mage says it's been a while since she smelled that scent. Raichiro agrees, though they had sensed it a few times while alive. From a tombstone, a red light emerges. And from beneath the earth, a hand rises. The scent the progenitors detect is from a forbidden spell. In the prophecy, the glow of the crimson moon will begin to soften as the beast awakens and must be sent to the underworld. The transcendent and master sorcerer Shijima Bando. Having committed a terrible massacre during the Heian period, he was defeated by a divination priest, his own companion. He arrives in a specific village, claiming he doesn't have much time, but it will only be 1,000 years until he awakens again. And so he will be reborn as the Demon King, ruler of the world and devourer of all life. Before dying, Shijima Bando casts a forbidden spell, sacrificing every living creature within the circle for his future resurrection. This mission is to stop the new prophecy recorded in the Book of Hell. With an unknown grade, the new boss is Shijima Bando. The sorcerer says he didn't expect to be resurrected with so little power, so he needs more sacrifices, realizing the place is darker than it was 1,000 years ago. Still, he senses fresh prey nearby. He activates the Circle of Doom, causing a powerful blast wave. Worried, Minato calls out to his companions. Hiko tells him not to worry about the other two. It's the new guy who warns them about the danger beneath. Neither of them had noticed before. But from a magic circle, hands are emerging, capturing them with the Snare of the Dead ability. Trapped, they wonder how the enemy is able to use so many abilities in a row without any delay. The sorcerer is powerful, and it's going to be hard to defeat him. Out of the corner of his eye, Shijima notices something. Minato tries to strike him, but he dodges quickly. The boy attempts the same attack as Hiko, but fails, and the sorcerer says he sees talent in him, but claims it hasn't been properly developed and traps the boy in his circle. A strong flash of light begins. However, the boss realizes something is wrong. Minato easily escapes his trap, using Hadad, one of the first moves he learned. Even so, the sorcerer tries to defend himself. The boy ends up suspended in the air. For Shijima, it wasn't bad at all. But either way, Shinji is ready to take advantage of the moment. Silently, he grabs his dagger and catches the boss off guard with a Marigold Blast ability. The redhead was determined in his strike. However, Shijima dodges and laughs, claiming it's a waste. He finds all of this amusing, but the boy had already guessed it would take more than that to bring him down. So he uses the Autumn Thistle's ability. Amused, the boss says it almost looks like it's raining, deducing that the ability breaks sword beams into multiple rays. Shinji manages to hold his defense against the strike, which impresses the sorcerer, who admits he truly is strong. Meanwhile, Minato is watching and wonders just how strong this guy is. After all, he's completely different from anyone he's fought before, and he feels stronger than the progenitors or even Midori, which makes the boy wonder what he should do. Someone calls his name, making him remember his companions, who are being freed. Akane tells him not to just stand there. Meanwhile, Shijima Bando demands they stay out of his way. He creates several different magic circles. From them emerge creatures, ravenous bone spirits. But that's not enough to stop them. Still, it didn't succeed. Each of these beings is powerful, even stronger than the Minotaur. And to make things worse, there are 3 of them. Minato's hand is glowing. His expression is filled with confidence. Returning to the fight, Shijima says the poor boy is now alone. But apparently, the redhead doesn't need help as he lands his first cut, so he makes it clear that's the last thing he needs. But suddenly, he's told to step back. He can handle this alone. The redhead says the only thing in this world you can count on is your own strength. Laughing, the boss agrees with that. After all, he doesn't need anyone else either. He's going to devour them all. So the sorcerer goes all out. Shinji pushes himself even harder to defend. Once again, he calls out his name. It's Minato, appearing to help him. The mark of the void shines even brighter. Shijima wonders what the boy is doing there and what happened to his bone spirits. While the other 2 are still being fought, half of the third one doesn't even exist anymore. He actually defeated the thing, and on top of that, he manages to punch the boss. His strike is truly powerful. Even Shinji is surprised, and the boy tells him not to fight alone. The sorcerer tastes his own liquid. Minato remembers that they all need to work together to defeat the boss. The full moon lights up the battle. Shinji looks at him stunned. Not even Hiko and Akane managed to take down the monsters that quickly. Their battles are still ongoing. So the redhead wonders how the boy pulled that off. But regardless, he doesn't intend to fight alongside anyone. Shinji says he doesn't need help from anyone. He plans to take down the bastard on his own. Shijima thinks that's perfect. The sorcerer will play with him one-on-one. Shinji manages to dodge just in time. The sorcerer launches his apocalyptic flash. As a result, Minato is thrown far away, and Shijima laughs gleefully at that. At that moment, Shinji takes the opportunity to strike again. Part of the area is devastated by the boss's power, and Minato appears to have taken a lot of damage. He's still recovering from what happened. Suddenly, he's in another place and asks why. Raikiro explains that he blacked out for a moment, so they took the opportunity to summon him. Minato tries to say something, but is stopped by the pain. Either way, it's not time for talk. He wants to return to the battle, but they want the boy to stop. That takes him by surprise. Outside, the fight continues. Shijima confesses that he and the redhead think the same way, which worries Shijin, because he knows he's not strong enough to defeat him. And the sorcerer says he's right not to drag anyone else into it. That's why he'll devour them alone. The boss unleashes even more powerful attacks. This becomes harder for the swordsman. He tries to enhance his blade, then attempts another strike against the opponent. Shijima says he hasn't had this much fun in centuries. Shinji is giving it everything he's got. Meanwhile, Raikiro explains that the redhead is above Hiko and a cannon, but still nothing like the sorcerer. That's why the boy has no chance at the moment. The mage explains that the enemy casts an extremely advanced version of a forbidden spell known as Resurrection. If it had been in a densely populated city, he'd have enough souls to become the Demon King. Devouring Minato's soul would make him even stronger, which is why she asked the boy to focus only on the damage the boss could cause. They never expected this mysterious new prophecy. It was by chance that Minato ended up being assigned to handle it. Reichiro asks him to lend them his body so they can fight in his place, but Minato refuses. The boy says this isn't training, it's a real battle. In the future, he believes there's no guarantee the challenges he faces will be tailored to his strengths. With a confident smile, the boy wants confirmation from his masters, but the mage still prefers he stay back since the situation is dangerous. Reichiro's laughter ends up breaking his companion's resolve, because he knows the boy is right. After all, his goal is to surpass all the progenitors. So the swordsman shows his support and asks his apprentice to give it his all. Reichiro advises him to use everything he's learned and stop the sorcerer at all costs, and Minato promises he'll do just that. The boy turns to face the progenitors. Then he promises not to disappoint his masters. He runs off, excited to return to the fight. Reichiro is the most thrilled by his student's determination. In the ongoing battle, Shijima mocks the fact that his opponent is out of tricks. Then he takes the chance to land a hit. Shinji leaps away to escape something worse. Still, the sorcerer declares it's time for the end. Whatever happens, the redhead has no intention of giving up. He wonders if this will really be his end. Suddenly, someone grabs his sword. It catches him off guard. It's Minato asking to borrow his weapon for a minute. Shinji wants to understand what the new guy's deal is. He keeps surprising him at every turn. Minato gains momentum as he lands on the ground. Meanwhile, Shijima Bando is preparing his next attack, firing the ray of apocalyptic flash. Minato uses the Hinky-style sword technique. He plans to play yet another ace up his sleeve, using the Sea Storm Slash ability. The two energy blasts are about to collide. The boy's power is so impressive that the ancient sorcerer wonders what it is. He wants to know who this is. The newcomer introduces himself. He is Minato Kanegi, the guy who will surpass all progenitors. The swordsman questions the mage, and she asks if he wants to know her opinion on the winner. For the woman, it's hard to say because all they can do is wait and watch. But for Reichiro, Minato is no fool. He wonders if the boy learned something new while doing sleep training in the car. With a big smile, he believes his apprentice has some kind of plan. Meanwhile, Minato keeps pushing forward in the fight. Shinji watches the rookie attacking the enemy directly. The strongest future transcendent in the world makes rapid sword movements. Not even the sorcerer can believe it, asking himself who this boy is. Shinji remembers the confident brat who thought they should work together. But the arrogant redhead made it clear he works alone. That seems to irritate him a little. For now, all he can do is watch the battle. Minato remains resilient, fighting the boss. Suddenly, crimson orbs appear. It's the sorcerer's forbidden pomegranate's ability. The boy manages to dodge the blasts. However, the energy redirects itself to chase after him. Minato believes these things will keep following him until they land a hit, so he stands right in front of the blasts. The boy formulates a strategy. Tak Wong observes this, quite proud. After all, his student trained hard with him. Minato's foot hits the ground, ready for stomp smash, raising a large stone shield. Thus, he protects himself from the crimson blasts. But the sorcerer thinks he's a fool for trying to surround himself with stones. Minato stays alert to everything around him. He creates more barriers to protect himself. With the impact, a huge wall of smoke rises. Yet Shijima is impressed by what he's seeing. Because the former loser is still standing. He learns something from Eilerson, so he uses the foot technique to his advantage along with light reflection. He easily manages to get behind the boss. Minato wastes no time attempting to strike with his blade, landing a cut on the sorcerer. Shijima Bando can't believe how strong the brat is. As a strategy, he tries to use Circle of Doom. Then he turns his back while chaos unfolds. But Minato manages to get out of it. He can't afford to lose sight of the basics, which is to use everything he's learned. He goes in for a direct attack, but then ends up dodging the sorcerer. Though it was more than that, it landed a hit in the process. Even though Shijima finds his individual techniques impressive, he believes the boy is not strong enough to be a real threat. That said, he genuinely wants to know how many abilities the brat has. Meanwhile, the progenitors observe, trying to understand the boy's tactics, which were meant for monsters, not a conscious sorcerer. They didn't expect him to improve so fast. She remains focused on her pupil's fight against the former ally. Shijima Bando even admits the boy is entertaining. But now it's time for the forbidden spell that puts the progenitors on high alert. Akaine, still fighting the bone monster, senses something strange. Something massive appears in the middle of the battlefield. It leaves her deeply frightened. The giant three-headed skull is lit by flesh decay. The sorcerer thanks Minato for the fun he had, but says he's not good enough. So their fight ends here. His masters, desperate, beg him to flee immediately. But he just stands there, only able to hear what's been said to him so many times, that he's not strong enough. Minato knows he's right because even giving his best, he's not strong enough to defeat him right now. So he tries to think of something, pushing further to find a way to surpass his own limits. The mage suggests teaching him magic, starting with the basic spell he needs right now. It's called Jera, a small flame in his hand. The boy's hand lights up. Hinoki style is both about appearance and strikes, while Seastorm's slash is a type that allows slicing through enemies. As he brings the blade down on his opponent, he must show not the slightest hesitation or fear, focusing only on their life force. With his other hand, Minato holds the sword. Looking like a completely different being, the guy who was once a loser is now lit by flames. Not even the mage can believe it. Raikiro is another who is impressed by what he sees. Shijima Bando must now prepare for everything he has to offer. This is the new technique invented by Minato Kanji that would someday earn its own name, the Shimmering Slash. The sorcerer is quickly struck, even with his large bone shield, and the world's strongest transcendent future is no longer weaker than him. Minato paid attention to what his master told him about different kinds of strength. Raikiro explained that it appears differently to everyone, like a very thin thread, and all it tries to do is cut through the tightly pulled part. So he wants Minato to tell him something about what he's seeing. The boy is fully focused. He tries to find Shijima Bando's life force. Minato sees a lamp with a frightening and hazy flame surrounded by darkness through the storm slash. Now he will no longer be consumed. His flame is much stronger, and this was done with his Shimmering Slash, destroying the giant made of bones and cutting the sorcerer in half, even leaving his masters impressed. Because Minato did something very impressive. He combined sword technique with magic. The alchemist startles his companions with his excitement at finding all of this fascinating. He understood what Minato's greatest strength is. It lies in switching between all kinds of techniques when needed. That's what he thought at first, but if he's able to combine them, many possibilities open up. Raikiro finds his companion a bit strange. But the mage remembers he's an alchemist, so if he's right, it means they had the wrong impression about the student's abilities. That's why she asks if it's a good idea to teach Minato. But the swordsman is sure it is. They need to see how far he'll go. Meanwhile, the boy looks exhausted. The sorcerer was split in half. However, his fluid begins to bubble, and the missing part grows back. It was only for a short moment. Shijima Bando admits that if he had lost his head, he would certainly be dead, especially from being caught off guard. But he won't let that happen again. He just didn't expect it to happen sooner, thanks to Shinji's wild camellias. Shijima had forgotten about him while enjoying his battle with Minato, but the redhead is back. He rescues his tired companion from the intense fight. All the sorcerer can do is watch, while Shinji protects the now unconscious Minato. His expression changes at the sight, then he is taken to a memory from the past. Haru's cough in his arms worries him. He asks if it's cold. He asks Haru to wait until morning, saying it won't be long. Shijima says that as soon as the sun rises, he'll search for food. But Haru shows no reaction. With a frightened expression, the young man calls his name. The cart carries his passengers. Meanwhile, Shijima tries to shield himself from the cold with what he has. The travelers are accompanied with much joy, while the young man wonders why they must suffer alone like this, thinking about how living alone might feel freeing, but also lonely. Shijima disappears into the air like snow. Then the redhead realizes it. He finally understands that he's not alone at all, even if being alone doesn't bother him. Suddenly, he senses something strange, and it's not good. Heiko and Akane run toward their partner as the girl calls his name. She asks if Minato is okay and breathing, and Shinji says he doesn't seem badly hurt. The lilac-eyed girl is thankful for that. Heiko is happy everyone is okay for now, but it's still too early to celebrate. He asks them to look at the barrier collapsing on them, large enough to swallow the whole village. If all the energy holding it up explodes from within, they'll be crushed and die. Shinji suggests using their abilities to cancel the effect. But with the power they have left, he's not sure they can. Even so, their friends try. All they need to do is give it their best. Minato is back, and with his sword, Shinji realizes the rookie has woken up, looking very different with a calm aura. But it's not the boy in control. He's resting after doing very well in the fight, fulfilling the promise not to disappoint his masters. And the mentors are proud of him. The shield is cracking more and more. Together, the Transcendent Ones use their abilities, with Raichiro wielding the Hinoki Cloud Beam sword technique. Someone is running from afar. One asks the boss what's going on. They realize it's the barrier. They think it might be too late, but maybe there's hope. Amid the chaos, they see a light. It's coming from Minato, and it's starting to grow even bigger. An incredibly impressive sword explosion. It's clear to Captain Makoto of the Suwa unit of Counter Prophecy. All Makoto wants to know is, who is this? Who is this powerful person capable of doing this? Midori is on a plane flying over Peru and finds it wonderful that the young members of the CPU defeated a new prophecy completely on their own. Meanwhile, in Japan, Makoto says the organization classified it as only a level 2 threat, but in his opinion, it's closer to level 1. Smiling, the blonde says he's impressed with them. Midori says they've improved a lot since the last time she saw them. The captain talks about the person who contributed the most to the mission's success. Definitely Minato, the rookie who joined the CPU just a few days ago, and he says he heard the blonde was the one who recruited him. The current strongest Transcendent smiles at the captain's question, curious to know more about the boy. He is the person they were waiting for to end the prophecy, and Midori truly believes it's Minato. But Makoto thinks it's a joke to have so much faith in the rookie, so the blonde suggests he take a look since he's so curious. The captain just wants him to return to base because it's boring without him there. There's no one to fight. Meanwhile, as always, Rin takes care of the bureaucracy. Ahead lies the emergency level prophecy when the sun darkens. They must face the plague-spreading boss, XJB. The plane is heading in her direction, causing the creature to finally open her eyes. The aircraft passes through the barrier. Midori asks her partner to wait because she just needs to take care of a small annoyance using her turbulence. At first, it's very hard to see, until Minato fully awakens. A nurse is happy that he woke up. The boy asks where he is, and she explains it's the CPU infirmary. She also says he's been unconscious since returning from the mission. All Minato can think is that he must have been completely out of it, not even able to reach the progenitors. The woman says she's glad to see him well and makes it clear he should call if he needs anything. Seeing Shinji, he wonders if he's been there the whole time. Looking around, he searches for Heiko and Akane. The redhead explains they've been training since the moment they returned. He says both of them seem quite frustrated about not being able to help much that day, and admits that none of them expected the final reveal, that the rookie was more advanced. Minato asks him to listen, but Shinji only wants to know who he really is, because in just 2 days he took down a level 3 boss and another with potential to be level 1. And it's strange, all those abilities, and how they were combined. He had never seen or heard of anything like it before. Once again, the redhead questions who he really is. Surprisingly, Shinji demands to know how he can be like the rookie. But suddenly, the moment is interrupted by the captain asking to come in for a moment. It catches both of them off guard. He asks the boy if he is Minato Kanji. Stammering a bit, the progenitor vessel confirms. Then Shinji calls the man brother, but the captain walks right past him, only glancing at him from the corner of his eye. Shinji looks a bit disappointed. Minato didn't miss what his partner called the man. But suddenly Makoto draws his sword and executes an attack. The younger brother is left confused, but the captain knows exactly what he's doing. In any case, Minato was quick to defend himself. He asks if this is some kind of test. Makoto thinks most trainees wouldn't have been able to dodge an attack like that. The man says the rookie is right and has passed his test. That surprises the boy quite a bit. The captain introduces himself to him, and the only thing the rookie can think of is the shared surname. So that's why Shinji called him brother. Because of the defeat of the last boss, Makoto invites Minato to become a temporary member of his unit. That catches Shinji's attention. He finds it odd that his older brother, a captain of Suo, came in person to ask this, when he never let Shinji go on missions. Minato feels torn between listening to Makoto's explanation and worrying about Shinji. Anger spreads through the younger brother, and it's all Kanji's fault. Meanwhile, in the training room, Heiko and Akane are undergoing intense training. The two are pushing past their limits, wondering what the purpose is behind all this madness. Annoyed, the lilac-eyed girl says they'll never catch up to him like this. Heiko also feels like they're not doing well, until suddenly someone arrives and changes the mood of the place. The superstar smiles and says it's good to see them so full of energy. Midori is back and asks them to try the fruit chocolates he brought from Peru and check out the alpaca rugs he received. All of the items are swept away by the strong wind. While running, Akane asks how long he'll be staying in Japan, and he replies that it's about a week. Then the girl asks if he can make them stronger, because they don't want Minato to make them feel bad again. That catches Midori by surprise. It's been a while since he's seen them so determined. Minato seems to have lit a fire inside them, so Midori says that's a good idea. He asks Shinji what he thinks about it. The redhead says they can count on him. Meanwhile, Minato runs to catch up with the captain. It's surprising to him how things are unfolding. Shinji, however, refuses to let the rookie get all the attention. This shocks everyone present. The redhead reveals that his brother came to see Minato a few minutes ago, and then invited the rookie to join the Suo unit as a temporary member. But only Midori understands the reason behind this. Meanwhile, Shinji blames himself for letting Minato get ahead of him. Chasing after the captain, Kanaji asks what exactly he's going to tell him, and the older man says it's about the next day's mission. The man then stops and calls him. Makoto asks if he and his brother are close. They only known each other for 2 days, but the boy thinks they got a little closer after defeating Shijima Bando. With a big smile, Minato confirms. That's all he needs to hear. But the younger brother believes his sibling doesn't care about what he does, or even what happens to him. But Makoto is truly concerned about Shinji. The younger one remembers that in the infirmary he barely looked at him, but the captain could hardly look at him because of the severity of his injuries. Shinji says the only way to get his brother to pay attention to him is to become as strong as possible, even if it costs him his life. Makoto doesn't care if his little brother isn't the strongest warrior in the world. He just wants to keep him safe. Minato says he also cares about him. Shinji promises to surpass the rookie and earn his brother's respect. While Makoto wants to keep him safe, the younger one wants to protect him. Minato thinks it must be really nice to have a brother. Akane and Hiko comment on how hard it is to know what their partner is thinking, not even if he wants his brother's approval. She once asked him if he hated his brother, and the redhead only said he had respect for him. The lilac-eyed girl says he just wants attention from Makoto, and Hiko thinks that's really cute. Shinji is training desperately. The 3 rules of the Suo unit are speed, never hesitating to attack, and overcoming weakness by excelling in physical combat with 7 members. They'd only deal with grade 1 prophecies or higher, and that's what people say about them. But one of the members says the captain does 90% of the work, and they just follow him like assistants. Another tip is not to get stressed just because he's a temporary member, and that you should let Makoto handle everything. Takeru tells him to put down his phone and listen, but he needs to send messages to the others. Everyone is bothering him and asking him to reply. Hiko finally got a response from Minato, as did the lilac-eyed girl, though she wasn't too pleased. Even the blonde one is shocked, but Shinji doesn't take the rookie's message well. Midori tries to understand what their problem is. They are messages with some important tips for each one on how to become stronger. Midori is surprised. They are detailed pieces of advice tailored to each member's specialties and strengths, things even he never taught them. He says it's very kind of Minato to send all that information. It seems to inspire his teammates, who are ready to follow through with everything. But Shinji plans to make the rookie regret helping an enemy, though Midori reminds him they're all friends. Takeru announces they can finally see outside. Minato wipes the window to get a clear view of the landscape. It doesn't look very pleasant with massive ice spikes. They'll have to deal with the grade 1 prophecy Snowball Earth, because a massive ice has grown and covered the land and the frozen area threatens to spread. If they don't deal with the threat, the prophecy says it could freeze the entire planet in the near future. This same disaster is happening in 17 other places around the world. In some, the ice has already reached major cities. The sub-captain explains that in Japan it started in the mountainous region, yet it's spreading faster than they expected, so they can't waste any time. Makoto states that this is as close as the helicopter can get. For that reason, they'll have to exit through the rear hatch and land on their own. Their top priority is to ensure no harm comes to civilians. The captain then asks the Suo unit to recite the 3 rules that must never be broken. Rule 1, speed equals survival. Rule 2, never hesitate to strike. And 3, all weakness must be overcome. During the battle with Shijima Bando, Raikiro assisted his pupil near the end. This mission is the perfect opportunity to observe and learn directly from elite warriors in action. This time, Minato is certain he'll finish everything without the progenitors' help. This is the next leap in his evolution, his first level 1 prophecy. That mission was an important lesson, ultimately a disappointment he'll never forget. At 10:17 a.m., the unit arrived at the prophecy site. Takeru is already feeling cold and asks if transcendent beings aren't supposed to be resistant to temperature. Mana says it's minus 37 degrees, colder than they expected. It's a vast area to investigate, and they'll likely need to find a place to camp for the night. The captain seems concerned about the situation. Minato asks his new companion about the prophecy and whether it's written in the book as well. Shaking his head, the blonde explains that a CPU member with the power of foresight gave a warning, and while unexpected missions happen often, it's the first time one has been classified as level 1. Interrupting the conversation, the sub-captain asks the rookie if he's nervous. She says it's better than letting your guard down, but there's nothing he needs to worry about. Takeru tells him to relax because there are 8 CPU-affiliated units in Japan, but Suo has overcome most of the level 1 prophecies. This irritates Mana, who says that doesn't mean the boy should just sit around doing nothing. The blonde apologizes for interrupting, but his radar has detected enemy activity. Minato is impressed as he watches that ability. Meanwhile, Takeru explains they're 200 meters away, positioned at 2 o'clock. That's all they need to know. The rookie wonders where they went. Mana appears next to her captain with news. There are around 30 plus grade monsters, a group of ice gargoyles. Makoto orders all units to begin exterminating the creatures. His orders followed immediately. They charge straight into battle against the ice monsters. Meanwhile, Minato watches everything in awe. The boy observed that in terms of assessing the situation and coordinating team attacks, they're much faster than trainees. They might joke around and act silly off-duty, but they are clearly a top-rank unit for a reason. Minato asks the captain what he would like him to do. The man says he's confident Minato can handle an S++ monster and asks him to join the fight. With his powerful aura, Kennaji is ready to carry out the order. Minato rushes toward his first enemy, taking it down with a single stomp. But he's not fully aware of everything yet. The sub-captain tells him to pay attention. Some of the creatures are extra strong. For that, Minato uses his newly acquired ability, Shimmering Slash, striking the first ice gargoyle in front of him, which is consumed by flame. Takeru looks around to see who did that. Looking back, he sees Minato. He's surprised because of the flaming sword. Mana smiles amidst the battle. Red lightning bolts are everywhere. This time, it's the captain in action, turning everything into pieces. And he does it again on a snow pile. Safe inside his shelter, the sub-captain asks Takeru for a status report. But he sees no one and doesn't even sense a boss within 10 meters. Mana says they'll have to camp there for the night. She also wants to know where Minato and the captain are. The rookie is thoughtful as always, once again remembering the battle with Shijima Bando, where he discovered the trick of combining abilities. Now he wonders if he can do the same with others, which he probably can. So he tries to focus, confident he can manage it. Suddenly, Makoto appears, asking if he's training hard, startling the distracted boy. Curious, the redhead asks if it's his first time camping and Minato confirms. Then Makoto says he hopes it's not too exhausting for him. The man reveals he wishes he could go back home right now, leaving the rookie curious. Makoto says he misses the smell and Minato finishes the thought. He misses the smell of home when he's away, but really, it's the smell of the cat. What the captain wants is to see his big furry animal. And so Minato realizes he's really talking about the cat. But that makes him curious, and he starts asking several questions about the animal. Then the captain is ready to show the boy pictures of his pet. Minato is startled because the man practically teleported next to him. Either way, the boy finds the little beast adorable and asks its name. And it's called Oribe Manju. The rookie says the cat looks a little grumpy in the photos and asks if the animal actually likes him. Makoto says his clothes are always covered in fur, he's always scratched, and the cat hates being held. The captain says it almost reminds him of Shini, and that's why he finds it so cute. He hopes that one day he and his brother can be like that too. Minato isn't quite sure what to say. After all, he's an only child and doesn't have experience with that. But he suggests the captain treat his brother the same way he treats Oribe Manju, leaving his superior speechless for a few seconds. Then Makoto agrees that it's not a bad idea. Back on the phone, Minato also finds a video of the cat, and his eyes widen upon hearing the captain using a cutesy voice with the animal. In the video, the man even calls him Whittle Baby while trying to give him a snack. Minato says it sounds like he's talking to a baby and asks if he should talk like that to Shinji too. Makoto asks the boy if he can practice that on him for just 1 minute, but is obviously denied. Mana finally finds them and suggests he go back and get some sleep since they'll be waking up early the next day. The captain agrees but leaves the woman speechless when he calls her Whittle Mana. That night, without the knowledge of Minato and the other unit members, someone was heading toward them. Someone comes running to warn the person that dressing like that will get him frozen to death. The man asks if he's a transcendent on a mission in the area, and the blonde confirms. His mission is to make sure this prophecy comes true. A transcendent was heading toward the mountain where Minato and the others were camped. When Kennaji fell asleep, the night training began, and this time it's finally the lesson with the archer. Mulgif asks Minato if he's tired, but he purposely saved this training for last because that's when his focus tends to weaken. Meanwhile, Raikiro complains about why they aren't having a sword fight, and Mel's reminds him that he did that the day before. The archer is impressed that the boy isn't distracted by the noise around him and says his focus has improved a lot. Minato says he hopes so. After all, he's on a mission with an incredible and exceptional team. That's why he wants to give his best. Minato finally fires the arrow. The arrow hits the target. Mulgith is impressed by the beautiful shot. The progenitor tells him not to forget that feeling and decides to end the training, and immediately the swordsman asks if it's over already. Until Minato wakes up, they'll keep practicing, so Raikiro tells him to get up and shine. In the morning, the rookie is the only one who seems not to have rested. Either way, the captain asks if they're ready. Minato is already focused on everything he says. Their mission is to find and defeat the boss of the prophecy. It's the second day of Snowball Earth. Takeru already spots 20 enemies 150 meters ahead, and the order is to split up and surround the creatures. The monsters are blue birds estimated at grade S+++. On the big screen, the progenitors watch what's happening. Eiler says the mission seems very easy, and Lilac talks about the other members being skilled warriors, so no one is in danger. The mage asks the old man what's wrong, since he seems disturbed. Known as the Hand of God, he says he's still not sure. But for some reason, his heart is trembling with a strange sensation. The sub-captain reports that the monsters have already been eliminated, and the man asks Takeru if he felt anything. He says he's picking up extremely intense energy waves and quickly realizes the boss is coming. The blonde counts down the 10 seconds until the creature appears. At second 0, a huge muscular monster with 4 arms appears, holding swords in each hand. With an unknown grade, Carmese is the secret god. Mana notices she has a completely different aura from the other monsters, so the order is for everyone to attack immediately. The giant woman's hands are bound using energy, and that's step 1. At number 2, Mana uses her sword. At number 3, the mage uses his magic circle, and together, they combine their attack. Even after all that hallucination, she doesn't have a single scratch. The rule to never hesitate is followed by the members who keep attacking. Minato remembers what his master said, that he must not show fear, focusing only on the enemy's life force. He also thinks about what Akane said, that when facing a powerful enemy, use your strongest attack from the start, leaving nothing for later. And that's the one thing he can do right now. He attacks the monster with his powerful shimmering slash, but he's shocked by the result. To be clear, it didn't even cause damage. Minato is attacked by her. The boss is even more furious. Worried, Takeru asks if Minato is okay, but the boy would have been in serious trouble if not for the ice pillar. Mana can't believe how strong she is, thinking that the creature must be the reason the prophecy is ranked level 1. The woman calls for the captain. She says she needs him to handle the monster for them, but for Makoto, that's not a problem. Takeru drags the rookie away, saying he'll only get in the captain's way. The 4-armed creature keeps attacking, using her swords to create a snowstorm from the impact. Minato shouts for the captain as he's being pulled away. Carmese even seems confused, because her attack was stopped by the tip of a blade. The man says he finds the creature pretty strong, and Minato is surprised by the captain's power, though it's normal among members. Either way, Makoto is there to face the one thing that could make the prophecy happen. He defends himself gracefully with his sword. She only has 2 arms left now. Raichiro, watching the fight, is impressed, saying he's not bad at all for a modern transcendent and hopes to fight him someday. The captain had hoped to let the other unit members defeat her so they could gain experience, but he'll have to handle it alone. The darkness is activated around the members, because Makoto used his ability, Imperial Crimson Dragon, a flame so powerful it burns everything around it, followed by a red light blast, sending fire against ice, and sweeping the snow along the path. Minato watches, so amazed his jaw could hit the floor. Carmese is swallowed by each attack. The rookie remains in awe that his captain uses a flaming sword. But more than that, it's stronger than his, and if not for the shield, then it would have all turned to ash. Makoto doesn't even have a speck of dirt on his suit. Minato noticed that his fighting style is different from Raichiro's, even how he uses his feet and breath, and he feels like he's nowhere near that level. The boy thinks it's incredible. He's finally found someone he wants to learn from. Either way, they celebrate the monster's defeat. Minato is enchanted by everything he saw, but apparently, the mission isn't over yet. The captain senses something is very wrong. There's a small hole in the direction he's looking, and it hit his comrade Takeru. Finally, Minato realizes what happened. Apparently, the blonde wasn't the only one caught. Meanwhile, Minato gets pulled into the darkness. He runs to try and help his teammate. The blonde calls him a fool. He pushes the boy away. Minato is horrified by everything that's happening. As he falls, Takeru wonders how this could happen. After all, this attack didn't even show up on his radar. His vision is fading, but he can still see his captain and apologizes for what happened. But it's okay. Makoto is smart, and he's sure the captain will find the enemy. Takeru collapses into the snow-covered ground. The captain, watching this, can't hold back his emotions. Hizano is the next to be hit. Seeing his soldiers in danger, Makoto takes control and yells for everyone to get down and take cover. They're under attack by an ability. Some were caught on the battlefield. The sub-captain is furious over the elimination of her comrades. Someone notices something's wrong with Makoto. Part of the captain's arm is gone. He can't even block the attack with a shield, so he suspects it's a type of ability that annihilates everything it touches. The captain senses something is coming. His wisest choice is to use speed to his advantage. Mana watches everything, deeply worried about Makoto. The boss, which had been shredded, is now regenerating everything it lost. She asks Minato if he can stand, because they'll have to bring down the 4-armed monster themselves. Looking back, she notices the boy seems a bit off. The rookie is kneeling, gazing beyond the horizon. Minato calls out to the apothecary, Warrantine. He begs her to heal these people, to bring them back. But the progenitor regrets what she has to say. It's not possible to fulfill his request, because there is no ability that can revitalize bodies so severely wounded. Even so, he can see the truth in her words. Still, he calls out for Raichiro, Takwong, and Eilerson. The swordsman is there listening. During the battle with the sorcerer, Raichiro helped him in the end, and he had sworn that next time he would complete the mission without help from the progenitors. Minato regrets having to ask, but he needs his help. The swordsman agrees, ready to assist his student, because the boy seems almost hopeless. As always, his hair changes when illuminated by the progenitor's aura. There's no way an enemy could have passed Takeru's radar, which scans everything within a 3.2 km radius, meaning the attack came from farther. A single strike pierced his arm and the body of his soldier. In other words, the enemy was in a direct line with the two of them. Makoto had been holding back his powers during missions to give the other unit members a chance to learn and grow. But now he begins scanning the area at full speed with his incredibly sharp vision. And in almost no time, he locates the enemy hiding behind an obstacle more than 3 meters away. That same stranger from the previous night. Many from the unit are gone, like Takeru, as well as Hizano, the cat lover Kawase, and even Moromi. But the captain assures that he will make sure their deaths are not in vain. He uses his red light blast attack. Another shot is about to be fired. The enemy says he didn't expect the redhead to track him and attack so quickly, and that he really is exceptional, just like everyone says. But Makoto is also impressed that he neutralized his slash and fire blast. The blonde says he probably would have already been finished off if he still had his left arm. Either way, he's there to bring darkness. He says there's no point in talking about things that haven't happened yet, so he simply wishes for the captain's death. Makoto uses his sword to create a sort of ice wave, leaving his enemy uncertain, a way to create distraction and strike from behind, and so use his sword for a quick slash. But his blade is shattered. Darkness smiles and says he figured he might try that. He says the redhead is one step closer to defeat. This only fuels the captain's rage even more, who launches another attack at him with everything he's got. But the blonde smiles at his attempt and says he already warned it wouldn't work, then kicks him where he's injured. Still holding on, Makoto asks if he's really sure about that. The captain lands a hit on the circle on his opponent's chest. He's thrown back, and the blonde asks why he was kicked instead of being annihilated. Makoto remembers that when they were under attack, he stopped after a few attempts. He says the ability seems capable of exterminating anyone and is incredibly powerful, but he doubts it has no limitation, deducing that the ability requires energy, just like all others. The blonde says he's technically right, but that still doesn't make them equals, and says it doesn't change the fact that Makoto is weaker than him. The captain repeats that word in outrage. Makoto remembers his entire team before the jump to this place that brought destruction, and repeats that the Suo unit has 3 rules that must never be broken. He executes number 3, invoking his powerful flame, leaving the enemy surprised that he cauterized his own wound. Makoto shows him why he leads the most feared unit in the CPU. Every weakness must be overcome, and he'll do it with the Imperial Crimson Dragon's self-destructive flame blast. The blonde asks if he's really going to throw his life away. He says that, in that case, he'll help with that. But Makoto doesn't want his men to worry because he won't let them down. With eyes blazing like fire, the captain tells him not to dare look down on the Suo unit. Back to what remains of the team. Carmeves is fully restored and even more furious, and Mana doesn't feel strong enough. She calls out for Minato and wonders if Makoto was wrong about him. After all, the boy seems completely lost after witnessing what happened to his teammates. She thinks it's because he's a rookie. But suddenly, something changes in his eyes. Minato begins to stand, and within him there is a completely different aura. Before she can call out to him, something too fast rushes past her. The boss is torn apart with a single kick. Eiler is now in control of the body. Mina watches in complete surprise. Meanwhile, Minato just walks forward as if nothing matters more than keeping everyone alive. For that, the progenitors will take over from here. The captain continues his battle, lit by his living flame. Even with his sword broken, he keeps using it, and fires flames of fury at his enemy. The blonde tries to dodge at all costs. It's harder than he thought. Even attacking from a distance, Makoto's attack curves around his ability and keeps coming for him. And there's a limit to how much he can control the darkness. There's only one thing to do in that case. The blonde summons more of his dark orbs. Makoto watches everything very carefully, and he sees this as his chance. The captain manages to sever his opponent's arm. Makoto tells him to take a good look because it seems the tides have turned. But the blonde asks, is that all? Then he manages to counterattack the captain. Makoto even chokes from the heavy blow he receives. The blonde asks if he really thought everything would change just because he cut off an arm and that he shouldn't forget who's got a hole in her stomach. He says he figured if he used all his darkness, Makoto would try a close-range strike. Admitting Makoto is truly strong, he also says the captain makes the best decisions and every move is efficient. In the end, Makoto is just too predictable. That's why the enemy says he'll never be able to win. The captain hears this, seeming tired from the fight. But then the blonde says he was doomed from the start. He says it's written in the book in his hand. This revelation leaves Makoto deeply shocked. After all, it's the prophecy book. The darkness of the world smiles as he reads. If there's an organization dedicated to stopping prophecies, he asks, isn't it only natural that there be someone trying to make them come true? Another shocking revelation for the captain. Then he introduces himself as one of the 12 disciples of the apocalypse, called 12 of Darkness, and he's going to make sure the prophecy comes true. Makoto asks why he wants that to happen. 12 asks if Makoto will go easy on him if he tells the truth, but the captain cuts him off sharply, demanding he stop this nonsense. That strike came so close it nearly cost him his head. Makoto believes he can still win. He's realized the enemy already used all his mana and is probably almost out of health. This is his chance to defeat him. With a smile, 12 says it seems like the end. Then he takes out his strange vial. He opens it and drinks. A strong, blinding light floods everything, preventing Makoto from seeing what's happening. All he feels is the powerful punch to his face. He's thrown far back. Makoto wonders how this is even possible. After all, he severed the guy's right arm. The thing is called an artifact. 12 says it's a type of extremely rare relic. That's why he didn't want to use it. Makoto doesn't care what he says, launching flames of fury, and 12 tries to counterattack with his darkness. The captain still can't believe that his opponent's arm is completely back. He also wonders what he's doing with artifacts, those ancient relics from the time of the tower, now maintained by the government because they're too powerful. He can't believe there's actually an organization allowed to use them. But while Makoto is missing parts, 12 is completely whole. The blonde says Makoto has finally fallen. It looks like the end for the captain of the Suo unit, but he still believes it's not over yet. Makoto is not ready to die, nor to leave anyone behind. Like his friends who are like family, there's still so much he has to do. Mikoto remembers Minato saying he's an only child, but encouraging him to treat his brother like he does Ored Manju, and he believes that might actually work. The captain smiles and says Minato is right. That gives him enough strength to take up his sword again. He can still do this. A chance to return home and have Shinji and Ored Manju together. Mikoto rises for one more attack. However, part of his hand and sword are eliminated. With a smile, 12 bids him farewell. That is his end, and the first person he thinks of is Shinji. The iceberg behind 12 is shattered. Tears are caught in the boy's hand, which he closes tightly, as if making a vow. And all over 1,000 progenitors are ready to deal with the bastard who made the protege cry. Mikoto is worried about Minato there. But whatever that thing is, it's not Minato. 12 can also clearly feel that something has changed in that boy standing before him, who is no longer a target waiting to be hunted. He has turned into a beast capable of punishing even the slightest hesitation with instant elimination. And the only thing 12 can do is order him to stop where he stands. The blonde doesn't even have time to finish his threat. Part of his arm has been severed. That caught 12 by surprise since he never took his eyes off him. So he wonders how the boy managed to do that, because Minato doesn't even seem to have moved. But his sword is heavily damaged. Raikuro says the weapon is too dull to be of any use, and Killick says only he could have caused such damage with that kind of strength and technique. Either way, the alchemist can still find a workaround. He uses his Trismegistus ability. Killick forges more weapons for him to use, and tells everyone to fight as they wish. 12 realizes his opponent is even tougher, but Raikuro is also impressed that he regenerated his arm, and Mel's explains it's called reversal. The mage assumes he probably used the power of an artifact that heals automatically within certain time or usage limits. An arrow is fired and hits the target. Mulgith lands a beautiful shot. The enemy's forehead regenerates quickly. Tak Wong asks what the plan is, and the mage says to keep eliminating the enemy. Desperate, 12 keeps summoning his darkness, and Mulgith keeps firing more arrows that are unaffected by the darkness of the disciple of the apocalypse. One of them hits dead center on his chest. Mulgith is fully focused using his bow. The archer asks if he really thought he couldn't shoot through such a wide opening. 12 is saved once again by the artifact. He counterattacks with more orbs of darkness, but Tak Wong leads the charge. With rapid movements, it's surprising how quickly the enemy is reached, striking the blonde with a powerful kick. More blows rain down on the enemy. 12 is hit square in the face. The progenitor notices that the ability seems to annihilate everything in its path and that the shots hit their target almost instantly. But it can only target what's in his line of sight. So the man realizes this makes it very simple to dodge the attacks. 12 is caught again in a spinning attack and thrown right afterward. Tak Wong asks how many times the enemy has been taken down, and Eiler asks what's the point of counting. Minato walks toward the captain. Even weak, Mikoto tries to speak. He asks if it's Ryu the boy, but Warrantine denies that it's Minato. The captain's wounds are healed. The apothecary reveals that the ones controlling the body are the progenitors, ancestral spirits of transcendence residing in Minato's body. She says there's no time to explain. Mikoto stands there, stunned that these are the legendary progenitors. Meanwhile, 12 complains that his enemy thinks his darkness ability is easy to dodge. To him, the boy is a complete beast, and he feels he needs to find a way. But there's no time to do much. This time, Kalkashima hits him right in the heart. The progenitor didn't even give him time to think. He says that if 12 keeps regenerating like this, they'll eventually be able to eliminate him for good. But Mels says it won't be necessary. Looking at the enemy, Kalkus realizes she's right. The disciple of the apocalypse is made of carpet. Eiler is curious to know, if they tear his body into pieces, which part will regenerate first? His hand begins to recover. Then 12 is fully back. He's determined not to let Minato keep attacking like this and thinks it's best to eliminate Mikoto and flee. But apparently, luck is not on his side, because it's not just the captain there. Minato is there waiting for him. The smile he gives is very different from the boy who attacked earlier. 12 realizes things are looking very bad for him, especially with Raichiro in command. The disciple of the apocalypse is torn into several pieces. There's no chance for him. Even so, he's happy to give his life for the fulfillment of the prophecy, so death doesn't scare him. But still, he feels so small before the massive energy that the creature before him radiates, realizing he hasn't overcome all his fears. 12 believes he can still overcome. Another artifact is pulled from his pouch that puts the progenitor on high alert, who severs his arm again. However, Raikuro is trapped in the sand cage of time. 12's healing ability is finally gone. He's relieved he managed to hold out, and not a moment sooner. Males explains that they're in a cage created by the artifact. She asks what they should do. Raikuro analyzes the surrounding situation, realizing that 12 can no longer regenerate. The blonde says not even darkness can break the cage, so one cannot eliminate the other. But at least he can keep the boy trapped inside. Raikuro calls out to someone and asks if he really understood. He's speaking to Mikoto. 12 looks back, startled. The captain of the Suwa unit is standing. Young Midori knows that swordsmanship is the one area where he can't beat Mikoto. For that reason, he thinks the redhead is a genius like him. So the boy asks his friend why he doesn't seek out a teacher to grow stronger. Following Midori's advice, Mikoto went looking and ended up training with several very famous warriors who soon had nothing left to teach him. The boy surpassed every one of them, searching for new teachers who could offer him something more, making some of them feel like mere ordinary men in his presence. None lasted more than a month before giving up on him. until one day a new teacher came to him, a sword master stronger than any of his former mentors. Her name was Ichika Hinoki. He studied under his last teacher for about 3 years. One time, in a book, he asked her about a technique. On the page, it spoke of sublime perfection. Ichika said the secrets of that ability had been lost over time, and not even she knew how to use it. Only its creator, Raikiro Hinoki, was capable of executing the technique. Hearing this left young Makoto astonished. Like the others, Ichika had nothing more to teach him, having already passed on everything she knew about the Hinoki-style sword technique. The boy asked what he should do and how he could become even stronger. Ichika paused to think. She said his talent was excellent, but even after all his training, he was still just a flower bud that hadn't yet fully bloomed. Ichika advised him to study other styles or spar as much as possible, but admitted she wasn't sure whether his talent would ever truly blossom. However, the teacher said there was still hope, and that someday he might encounter a swordsman more powerful than himself. Standing before him now is Raikiro Hinoki, even if in Minato's body. Ichika once said that if he ever met that person, he must seize the opportunity, because such a chance may never come again. Makoto thanks his master, because he can feel it too. This is precisely the moment she was talking about. Meanwhile, the mage asks Raikiro what the young man is doing. The swordsman is watching closely. Minato, who was just behind, runs to see what's happening. The boy is shocked by the sight. A crimson aura illuminates the captain. Back at the training grounds at CPU headquarters, Midori wears a worried expression. He can sense an intense energy, and Shinji tries to find out what's wrong. An energy explosion nearly blinds the redhead. It startles the other members, and Akane asks what just happened. The wall is broken, and Midori is no longer there. Meanwhile, back with the captain, 12 is being overtaken by confusion. In his current state, Makoto shouldn't have posed any threat to him as a swordsman. Yet the disciple of the apocalypse could feel that the captain was going to slice him to pieces. Raikiro calls out to his pupil. He tells him that if you compare people with flowers, there's only one moment in life when a person truly blooms. He asks his student whether he thinks it's at the peak of physical perfection, when one reaches flawless technique, or when one finally attains ultimate truth. Now is that moment. Raikiro asks him to watch closely, because you must remember this forever. Minato asks what he means. Makoto exhales a gentle smoke. In his mind are all the memories of those who matter most in his life, and like a flower, he's about to bloom. Minato is finally beginning to understand something. It's no different for 12. Even without hands, it's as if the captain is wielding a sword. The flower has finally bloomed. And so, Makoto Suo executes the Hinoki-style sword technique, but goes even further, with the non-physical combat technique, Sublime Perfection. 12 was sure he had blocked him with darkness, and wonders how Makoto managed to surpass him even without hands, let alone a sword. He simply wonders why Makoto had to awaken his true potential right at that moment. But it's too late for the disciple of the apocalypse. Raikiro watches the battle, finding everything impressive. The aura of the modern transcendent is incredible. Makoto feels something completely new, like a consciousness entirely different from his own within his sword. To him, it feels as if he had lived under low clouds all his life. But now he can reach out and touch the sky. He sees and feels that this is what it's like to reach a whole new level of sword mastery. Makoto has been running all his life, even with his family. Friends he could always count on. Even his comrades and subordinates surrounded by incredible people. Still, he kept running to become stronger, even if this is where his story ends. Makoto sees his brother's sorrowful face, but he hopes he'll forgive him, because to him, it's okay. Someone approaches the captain. It's the rookie who impressed him. With a gentle smile, Minato extends his hand. It catches Makoto a bit by surprise, but now he can see. Everything makes sense, and he's not simply dying. Makoto is passing the torch to her, the next generation. The boy panics as he realizes what's happening. It was just a brief moment, but Minato felt his spirit connect with the captain's through the mark of the void. Desperately, he calls out for Makoto, but there's nothing else he can do. Looking up to the sky, Mana is able to notice something. It's Midori arriving at an absurdly high speed, then rescuing his best friend. The young man is shaken by the situation, but Makoto is completely at peace. Captain Suo passed at the age of 23 while fighting the Transcendent 12. Minato is on the ground feeling defeated, as he imagines what it might have been like if Makoto had been able to follow his advice. The red floods the white of the snow. Makoto is at peace, like a free bird, with his best friend by his side. Midori can't accept what happened. Once he asked Makoto why he wanted to be the captain of the unit. The swordsman asked what he meant by that. Midori said he's the second strongest in the CPU and practically unstoppable when he goes all out. So he asked if it wouldn't be better to fight alone. Makoto said that sounded like something the blonde would say, and Midori joked, asking if he thought he had no team spirit. Suva said that there are stars that shine brighter than all others, even if they're more distant. He said they need stars like that, people like Midori. On the other hand, he didn't know how to describe himself. Through the screen of the device, a broadcast begins. Tekeru celebrates that Kuzushiro passed the level 2 swordsman exam, the one he gave him homework for. Happy, the young man says now he can also be useful to the unit and wanted the captain to be the first to know. Tekeru plans to celebrate the victory with food, so Makoto realizes that in his case he likes having comrades to work with. He says that if he ever gets hurt or is defeated in battle, He wants to be able to count on them. The captain is simply happy to have met people who make him feel this way. Midori says he saw their comrades along the way, revealing that only 2 remain. He calls for the captain of the unit. Midori says he did everything he could, and that he could never have done what Makoto did. He thanks Makoto for everything. Meanwhile, Minato is still lying in the snow. He suffers for all that happened. The progenitors respect his silence. Eilerson comments on how dark it is there, and the archer says he's not surprised. Mills agrees, aware of what Minato is thinking. He's probably blaming himself and telling himself that it's all of his fault for being too weak. All the progenitors have also lost people before, companions, friends, family, even students. They've suffered disappointment and grief and had to say goodbye to countless warriors who died in battle. It changed them. In many cases, their wounds were so deep that they simply closed their hearts to the rest of the world. Reichiro calls out to his student. The boy says maybe it's better if he doesn't fight anymore. That affects all the progenitors. Minato says his heart feels like it's been shattered into pieces. He says that if he had let the progenitors handle things from the beginning, maybe no one would have been lost. The boy says he should simply let them use his body however they want, so each one can make the most of their unique abilities. Reichiro calls for him again, but before anything can be said, Minato says he knows that doesn't seem to make sense. The boy cries hard, shedding his tears like rain. All of this is because he can't forget the feeling of Captain Makoto's hand in his. That was so real for both of them. His hand is still burning. Minato says the captain trusted him. That's why he doesn't want to disappoint Makoto, revealing that in that moment, the vague idea of one day surpassing the progenitors came to an end. He says he'll never think that way again. His goal is to surpass all of them as quickly as possible. Minato looks into the darkness. A light appears in the middle of it. That light shines on everyone and lifts them up, bringing them back to the light. Minato promises he will never let someone else die again. A helicopter finally comes to the rescue. The wind seems to sweep everything away, except everyone's sorrow. The captain's body is placed into a bag. Everyone is told to board, but Midori says he will return on his own. Mana asks him to take care. On the phone, Midori receives bad news. It's about the person who took Makoto down, revealing he's a member of the 12 disciples of the Apocalypse. He's told to hold all reports and requests for a while, because it's hunting time. Since then, Midori vanished without a trace. 1 month later, on Mount Onmatake in Nagano Prefecture, Shinji stays on the defensive, until he tries to land a hit on Minato. The rookie uses his fist strike, but the redhead blocks it right away. This doesn't seem too difficult for Shinji, who fights hard not to break his guard. It's surprising to Minato that Shinji dodged his close-range punch. The boy also manages to stop him, using another move to spin him through the air. Shinji realizes he used a Hapkido technique. He also tries to counterattack, but Minato doesn't plan to let that happen, and neither does the redhead. Both prepare their strikes, but someone shouts that's enough. They both stop the fight immediately. The person is Ichika, Makoto's former master. As for the Suo unit, it's over. This deeply affected every member of the CPU. A funeral was held for all the Suo unit members who were lost, and of course, Shinji was present at the farewell. That day, he stood in front of his brother's portrait for what seemed like an eternity. At some point, Minato met him there and was surprised by what he saw in Shinji. The redhead had some books and his brother's cat. Judging by his appearance, he was not doing well at all. Minato finally meets Oreid Manju. Shinji assumes he already knew about his brother's cat, revealing that he, on the other hand, had no idea, until he cleaned out Makoto's room. He hadn't realized how much his brother cared about that cat. He also didn't know what kind of books he read or what style of clothes he bought. Shinji didn't even know what he ate, or what he thought, until he went through all these things. Something catches Minato's attention. He asks if what Shinji is holding is his brother's journal, and Shinji confirms, saying Makoto told him he could have it. In case of death during a mission, Makoto left a will to prevent any issues. The journal details daily training sessions and missions. Shinji asks Minato if he knows what was written at the end of each entry. On January 12th, he wrote that it had gotten much colder in recent days, and so he hoped his brother was warm. He flips through the journal, looking at each note. At the end, it's always about Shinji, from the day he passed the Hunter exam and was accepted into the CPU, to when Mana brought watermelon and Makoto wished his brother could have some. And on October 1st, when the younger one was selected for a patrol mission for an unclassified prophecy, Makoto hoped he returned safely. He spent a long time reading each page. Now he knows that at the end of every entry, Makoto mentioned him. Shinji cried, feeling the pain of losing his brother even more deeply. Minato asks him to listen. He talks about every time he spoke with the captain, how the man always talked about him and Oreid Manju. So Shinji promises he will become even stronger. Whatever his brother is now, he wants to make sure Makoto never has to worry about him again. In a place near the volcano, Ichika asks what the two of them want. It's Shinji who brings the news about his brother. She says she understands. Then the two ask if she can train them. Currently, the master says both have improved. Minato is already incredibly powerful, and Shinji has made great progress too. Minato asks what she thinks about him, to which the woman replies that she's almost thinking of becoming his student instead. The woman tosses weapons to the boys. Her specialty is the sword. With a wicked smile, she says the boys may come at her. Minato and Shinji are ready for their master. The progenitor vessel carries the promise of becoming stronger, and one day becoming the most powerful warrior in the world. In London, England, on a cold day, a man walks down the street. Footsteps can be heard echoing. Court, one of the 12 disciples of the Apocalypse. He says he finally came looking for him. This is the transcendent Midori Ichihara. The blonde demands to know where the other members and the headquarters are and threatens to eliminate him if he wastes even a minute of his time. Smiling, Court asks what's the rush and why he doesn't want to have a little fun first. But Midori is in no mood for jokes. The alley is empty and silent, until an explosion and a bright light disturb the peace. Midori is the only one who walks out. He says he warned he would eliminate him on the spot. The strongest transcendent hands over a book stained with his opponent's fluid. Now there are 7 more to hunt. Midori and his team are in possession of 4. He's ready for the next one. Back at CPU headquarters, inside the top-secret conference room, Egunen, the prophecy books are there. Io, the chief commissioner of the counter-prophecy unit and senior executive, asks if Midori sent them. The commissioner's aide, Tenjin Shinano, confirms and reports everything that was learned about the disciples of the apocalypse. The other aide, Shiki Kitamori, says she believes a single book was split into several volumes. Ado says she has no problem with him eliminating enemies and gathering the items, but she didn't expect him to go alone like that. The lady believes Makoto's death must have affected him deeply. Shiki asks how they should proceed. Io says to leave him alone because no matter what anyone says, he won't listen, and maybe she'll just sit down and have tea with him when he returns. There's something they'd like to discuss with the commissioner about the Suwa unit. With the team disbanded, there's now a vacancy to fill. Tenjin Shinano and Shiki Kitamori have an official request. They ask if she will grant permission to create a unit. Commissioner Io stares at them. Somewhere in Tokyo are dissident prophecy agents of a certain grade with the boss of the Daybreak Infidels. They're all strong, and the Transcendent asks if there's no way to eliminate them all at once. The girl finds it difficult, reminding him that each one is resistant to a different type of attack. Satsuna Hibiki is the captain of the unit and says that's what makes eliminating them so hard. The woman asks her subordinate if she can give the others a hand. Akane is ready for that. She quickly uses her Trismegistus ability. She tells everyone to step back. The huge liquid orb is transformed into several droplets. Then the lilac-eyed girl summons gas, which spreads through the air, choking the enemies. Next, she commands it to switch to liquid form, sticking mercury to all of them. After that comes incineration, burning them all. Akane extends her hand. As she closes her fist, she says, "To hell with all of you," changing the mercury to a solid state. Then the spikes grow, piercing each one of them. The unit members watch, quite impressed. All the enemies end up as human skewers. Akane snaps her fingers to draw attention. She says that should take care of them. The captain claps, impressed by the display. Hibiki finds it incredible that she managed to combine 4 different attacks into one. She says she knows this is just temporary, but it would be a shame for someone so talented to leave, so she invites her to join the unit. Akane just thanks her and says she'll think about it. The unit members comment that the captain seems eager to recruit, and another remarks on how talented, cute, and sweet the girl is. Anyone would want her. Hibiki says Akane would make her life easier if she joined the unit, leaving the others wondering what she meant by that. The lilac-eyed girl calls Minato. She shares the news of having finished Lesson 7 about mastering the 3 states of matter and excitedly asks for the next one. Minato is still on the other end, in the middle of training. He's on the phone while trying to save his snack from Oberi Manju. Killick is impressed that she finished Lesson 7. Meanwhile, Minato wants to know if he could come up with 3 new ones for the next lesson. The alchemist is already searching through books, excited. So Minato says he'll send the new ones soon. In Tokorozawa, Satama Prefecture, Heiko is already on Lesson 8, fighting against the Grade 2 prophecy dirt-eating mythical creature with the boss, Voracious Sphinx, whose upper half gets blown apart, and so he completes the mission Flash Kick and Beak Stab. Captain of the Koichiro Todoroki unit says that Hikotaro did well, and because of that, he's inviting him to join the team. Heiko is thrown into the air by his teammates and says he'll think about the offer. The biggest question now is choosing which unit to join. On the call, a proud Akane says she has no intention of losing to any of them. Minato likes hearing that and says Shinji has also improved a lot, so he thinks it's best to start training hard to keep up. The boy says it's really encouraging to see both of them making so much progress. Hearing that makes Akane blush. Shinji asks Orib Manju why he only likes Minato, and Minato tells him not to shout because he's scared the animal. Trying to understand what's going on, Akane asks Kaniji if he's heard about the new unit. She explains that since Suwa was dissolved, they've been trying to create a new one to fill its place, and the captain will be chosen from current unit members with the most impressive record. That makes the boy curious to know who it will be. But Akane almost rolls her eyes, saying he must be joking. She talked about this with Hiko too. It's the Kanaji unit, and with a smile, she asks what he thinks. Laughing, he says it's not that bad, until the boy realizes the weight of her words and startled, asks what she means by that. Minato asks if he really understood that they want him as captain. Calmer now, he asks why it has to be him. Akane begins by saying the CPU has a vision. Their dream is to eradicate every predicted calamity in this world. Minato asks about those things. The girl simply confirms it, and personally, that's her own wish as well. There is something necessary to make that dream come true. The captain must be someone with the determination to lead the other unit members to victory. She says that if the boy were to ask her, she believes he is the right person for the job. That leaves Kanaji speechless. The conversation is then cut short by Captain Hibiki, who calls for the lilac-eyed girl. During his break, Minato is deep in thought. In his mind, the word captain keeps echoing. Seeing the scene, Master Ichika asks her other student what the boy is doing. With just a few words, she understands from Shinji that it's about becoming the new captain. She says the boy should go for it if he wants to, and the redhead agrees that Minato would make a good leader. Kanji looks very worried, and Ichika quickly notices it. Mills asks if anyone has any advice for the pupil, but none of the progenitors have any idea what to say. They've spent their entire lives fighting and don't know how to be leaders. Mel says that's not helpful, and that they're supposed to be his teachers, and Raikiro reminds her that she is too. The swordsman asks Ryan if he has nothing to say. Ryan, the host-moving progenitor, says it's not the right time. Besides, they're forgetting something. He says someone here is much more qualified to talk to him about such things, which makes Raikiro curious to know who he means. A staff is thrown next to Minato, catching his attention. Ichika asks why, instead of sitting around thinking, he doesn't use the time to focus on training. She says it's time to start intense drills, beginning with foot techniques. That quickly excites Kanji, who agrees. Minato floats in the water with ripple travel. The master is pleased. Not a single movement wasted or a trace of hesitation. Ichika asks how he managed that because even for the most talented transcendents, it takes at least 6 months to reach that level. But she wouldn't believe him if he said he practiced a lot while sleeping. Minato is suddenly caught off guard in that moment because Ichika didn't even give him time to think. She attacked him. Her strikes are fast and strong. Shinji watches, impressed, while Orab Manju tries to get out of the water. Ichika tells Minato to keep going, losing herself in thought as she'll make him focus, whether he wants to or not. Minato stays determined, doing as she says. Reichiro asks the mage if this is what she meant when she said someone was more qualified to speak to Kanji. Mills isn't very surprised. After all, Ichika is his descendant. In any case, she believes Ichika is brilliant for managing to teach a genius like Makoto. Ichika Hinoki, descendant of his younger sister and his great successor in modern times. The woman uses the Hinoki-style sword technique, attacking Kanji with a powerful snake crawl. That strike catches Reichiro's attention. Ichika is truly giving it her all. Her next move is to use the Purgatory Blade, charging directly at Minato, who begins to panic. The master is illuminated by a magenta orb. Raikiro has never seen a technique like this before. She found a way to land a perfect strike after spinning in the air, which is very interesting to him. Ichika says she simply doesn't understand. She wants to know how the boy can avoid all her attacks so easily when he only knows this technique for now. Surprised, she says she recognizes the Hinoki-style sword technique he uses and then asks the boy if some of those strikes come from the original creator. Ichiko wants to guess what Kanji is thinking. She understands that Minato was worried about not being able to meet Makoto's standards. The boy seems to realize what had been holding him back all this time. He was wondering if he could ever be a great leader like Makoto. Meanwhile, Shinji is thinking about the boy, unaware that this was what had been troubling him. The woman is right, and that's because Minato saw it with his own eyes. He knows exactly what kind of inspiring leader Makoto was to his team. Kanji honestly hopes he can be like him. But it turns out Minato doesn't need to be like Makoto. Ichika yells at him to pay attention. With the Kanoki-style sword technique, she creates the soaring Tengu. The master asks the boy to look at the techniques she used. Each of them was created by later generations of masters, who built upon the founder's teachings. They can't be exactly like the progenitor because his abilities are on a completely different level from theirs. Continuing, she says that later masters kept researching new techniques in hopes of reaching even a fraction of that level, thus the evolution. Minato is surprised by the idea of a generation of researchers striving to become like the progenitor. Ichika says that currently there's no certainty of what Makoto was like as a captain, but as his student, she has no doubt he was excellent in the role. She says you can't expect to be exactly like your heroes from the start, but you can keep practicing and doing your best to follow in their footsteps. And if you do that, somehow, you'll reach your goals. The master then shouts at Minato, asking if that's right. Ichika says that instead of worrying about being like Makoto, he should think of it this way. She asks what it was that Makoto entrusted to him. Kanji then remembers that final moment, when he could feel Captain Su's hand burning into his. In that final instant, the future was entrusted to him. Satisfied, Ichika says she likes that look on her student's face. She says that in that case, she'll do her best to train him for the future as well. Ichika asks Minato to show her everything he's got. Their auras collide along with their weapons, creating a beautiful event in the sky. 2 weeks later at the Counter Prophecy Unit headquarters, the two captains are reviewing the list of candidates for the new unit. Tenjin says they usually select someone recommended by other leaders or the commissioner's office. But it looks like there's an interesting exception this time. Ichika Hinoki has recommended the newcomer Minato Kanji. Outside, there's an infiltrator passing on the information that the test to select the new unit's captain will be held in 3 days. The infiltrator tells his boss to wait a little longer because he is the one who will lead the new unit. This is Avier, a member of the 12 Disciples of the Apocalypse. He has an ability called Amanojaku that allows the user to disguise themselves as the person they've eliminated. The disciple's goal is to become the captain of the new unit and then destroy the organization from within. His thoughts are on Midori Ikihara, who is out there eliminating the other members. Half of them are already dead, and they're not strong enough to take down the beasts, so there's only one better thing they can do to survive. For that, they need to cause chaos within the CPU. That's all it takes to fulfill the prophecy. 3 days later, at the long-range practice grounds, everyone is asked to form up. Tenjin says the test to select the captain of the new unit is about to begin. There will be 4 tests in total, and the first 3 will narrow the candidates down to 4 people, with points awarded based on the ranking in each test. The candidate with the highest final score will become the captain of the new unit. They are informed that the commissioner herself will be watching the tests from her office. Tenjin asks if everything is clear to them. Then he asks them to give it their all. Everyone is ready to be number 1. Minato thinks about the candidates for the role and how exciting it all is, but he feels as if everyone is watching him. The participants are the following 8 people. Haruki Kokide from the Yaguruma unit, who speaks badly about Minato. Seishiro Asahina from the Yorozuya unit, who finds it absurd that Kanji is aiming for the captain position after only 2 months in the CPU. Kuromo Sonobu from the Yoshima unit is impressed that he's trying even while still a trainee and tries to speak to her partner. But So Hizagi from the MangaCapped team asks her not to bother and is also not happy about Kanji, wanting to know who he is. Ezuki Sakazaki, who is part of the Tsurusaki unit, talks about Kanji's feat in the first-grade prophecy and how he was recommended by Ichika Hinoki. Annoyed, En Shikami from the Todoroki unit comments that he heard Kanji is training CPU peers. Kaname Irio from the Hibiki team wonders if this is the one teaching Akane and feels insecure because of Kanji's good looks stealing his thunder. One of these people is currently AVA, a disciple of the Apocalypse in disguise, and unaware of this, Minato reflects on how his master still hasn't arrived. Furthermore, she sent him a message saying she woke up late, but still threatens that if he loses, she'll turn him into charcoal. Kanji knows she's serious after all he's experienced himself. He's not sure what the tests will be like, but he knows he must make sure not to be eliminated, at least until Ichigo arrives. Either way, the test begins. Shinji asks the master if this really is part of the training, and the one who confirms it with absolute certainty. She asks him to move faster. Ichika makes it clear that if he keeps delaying like this, it might all be over by the time they arrive. The redhead asks if she wants to see the moment Minato passes the test. By then, the mana measurement test is completed. Kanji is in the test area. Minato receives the highest score, and the boy almost cries for breaking the machine once again. Seishiro, who ranked 5th, is impressed by this. Asuke, who ranked 3rd, wonders if this is Minato's specialty, and Kuromo, also 3rd, asks what he means by that. He explains that whenever someone stands out in physical skills, they usually specialize in mana, and for him, Minato fits that pattern. Aizuke says it's just like En. The boy is listening to the entire conversation. En Shikami placed 7th in the mana test. The second test is hand-to-hand combat, and whoever defeats their opponent will receive 2 points. Tengen asks if there are any volunteers, and En steps up, choosing Minato. He wants to fight the boy because he's the strongest in his unit at hand-to-hand combat and another special member. When he was 2 years old, En and his mother were attacked by a group of monsters from a dimensional rift. The beasts went straight at them. That awakened the mark in the boy. Not a single monster reached them. Without leaving his stroller, he eliminated all the creatures in the area. Hibiki says it doesn't seem fair to let En take this test, and Koichiro wants to know why, after all, he's the strongest in hand-to-hand combat. He says the boy has limited mana abilities but is physically unmatched by other transcendent individuals. Koichiro explains that since En joined his unit, he's invested all his energy into martial arts training, and that no one stands a chance against him in a physical fight, and Hibiki tells him to stop flexing because it's so cringy. But she knows the man is right, as En's physical strength surpasses anyone else there. Hibiki believes the poor boy is going to be torn to pieces. Before they begin, En asks if Minato is really training Heiko. This catches Minato off guard. He explains he's more of an advisor than a teacher, only giving a few tips. En says he's met guys like that before who give a few tips to a genius and then go around bragging that they were their teacher. The redhead says that, like him, Heiko is an incredibly gifted genius who doesn't need people telling him what to do, and ends by saying the blonde will be fine on his own. Minato surprises him by saying that he's absolutely right. With a smile, the newcomer fully agrees. That only irritates En, who asks what kind of game he's playing. But regardless, he doesn't intend to waste time. So he starts off with Rip and Tear. His strength even cracks the ground beneath his feet. Using the force to launch into the attack, Kanji can only think about how fast his opponent is. But Minato manages to dodge his claws. A powerful explosion occurs around them. Even the spectators have their vision disrupted. Koichiro is thrilled with En's performance. The young man is giving it his all. His strikes are incredibly fast. Minato only defends. But the boy is just observing and uses the Kobudo-style technique to grab his wrist, spinning him through the air with an arm twist. The impact destroys a large part of the area. This makes the other candidates, impressed, start looking for ways to protect themselves. The mere recoil from the counterattack was incredibly powerful. Minato tells En that he is really strong. This irritates the boy, who asks if he is joking. He then breaks free from Minato, escaping the humiliating position he was put in. Haruki is impressed that he has not a single scratch on him. Kaname also notices this, finding it impossible since the ground was destroyed. Aizuke asks if it's really that surprising and once again points out that En's physical abilities are his strength. He says that when it comes to raw endurance, ordinary people can't compare to him. The two continue their fight. Minato knows he can't win just by redirecting his opponent's attacks. He wants to try something else. Ilerson comes in with a light speed kick. Kanagi hits En hard in the stomach. Wasting no time, he plants his foot firmly with X-cross and quickly follows with the fist strike. Then combinio the spinning foot strike. En is thrown far away. This impresses everyone watching the fight, even those who trusted the veteran's physical abilities. The rookie surpassed him in just a few seconds. Contrary to what they thought, En, who looked like he was in pieces, is interrupted by the judge shouting that it's enough, and so the test is concluded. The winner is Minato, who earns 2 points. Tak Wong and Eilerson celebrate their student's victory. So calls Aisuk over just to say that Minato's physical abilities are better than En's, and he questions it, since it was said the rookie was good at mana. The boy starts doing his research, not expecting Kanagi to be such a notable fighter. He assumed Minato would be naturally eliminated if he just left him alone. Now So knows that if he doesn't stop him, Minato could cause problems later. The image to be displayed is a little blurry, confused, and opens his eyes wide. He screams, asking what Minato is doing because it hurts a lot, and the rookie tells him to stay still. The healing is being done by Warrantine. En says he's showing off after all and asks if, besides physical abilities and mana, he's also a healer. He asks if there's anything Kanagi can't do. That question brings her back to that terrible day, making her reply that yes, there are some things. En is now ready to stand up. Suddenly, an explosion occurs in the field ahead. Minato explains that it's the close combat test being concluded, and En finds out he had been unconscious for 5 minutes. He says that after their fight, everyone picked their partners and the battles began almost at the same time, with Haruki against Kanam, Seishiro against Koromo Sonobe. Minato says that 2 pairs finished quickly, but the others are still going. Azuki Sakazaki is competing with So Hizagi for points. While one studies the opponent carefully, the blonde just wants to finish the fight quickly. So provokes her opponent, asking if he thinks he's tough with his high overall stats. And there's something she says the nerd doesn't know. So says that unless he stands out in some way, he's just another cog in the machine, and that Aisuk doesn't deserve to be captain. Aisuk replies that apparently they have different views on what makes an ideal captain. He doesn't want a leader with special powers. To him, a captain should be able to respond to all kinds of situations and ensure the survival of the entire unit. He says that's the opposite of Mikoto. Aisuk says he doesn't want to lead his members to their deaths over a meaningless fight. Minato, overhearing everything, is struck by his words and gets annoyed at the four-eyed bastard's speech and tells Kanagi not to pay attention to the provocation. But the rookie knows that and still thanks his companion. Soa uses her martial arts ability, attacking the other with a powerful lethal chain blast. Aisuk tries to withstand the blow, but ends up being thrown far away. So doesn't stop there, ready to hit him again. But Aisuk surprises her by saying he surrenders. That's enough, and the winner is So Hizagi. The blonde questions the nerd if he let her hit him on purpose, and Aisuk says he hates rude women. The nerd says he didn't want to waste more energy on a pointless fight, so he decided to end it. Either way, they still have a long road ahead. Aisuk leaves with the thought that he could have easily defeated the woman if he had wanted to, but he doesn't want to reveal his grand strategy to Minato. The boy stays there, watching his strange behavior. With that, the test ends with Minato in first place, Koromo in second, and then Haruki. Finally, it's break time, and Kanagi notices that his master and Shinji still haven't arrived. He wonders if the two got lost on the way. Ichika says the student did a good job. Shinji realizes where they are and asks what's going on. He wants to know why they're in the central garden of the CPU headquarters instead of the test site. Ichika walks through the area, aware of every step. The woman says that someone recently died there. She says it's hard to see with the naked eye, but there are traces of an aura all over the place. Whatever beast attacked the warrior there, it must be incredibly powerful. Shinji asks if she thinks someone invaded the CPU, reminding her that this entire area is completely isolated from the outside. Ichika asks him to think about the 12 disciples and that they know about the CPU, so she wouldn't be surprised if they found this place. The boy is in shock, thinking this could actually be possible. In any case, the master tells him to hurry up because it's time to go to the test site, and she believes the one eliminated was some captain or something more. Midori isn't the only one who wants to avenge Mikoto's death. The test has a lot of surprises ahead. However, it's still break time. Koromo tends to So's wounds. Some use the break to eat. Aisu continues his research. Minato eats beside En. He notices the arrival of his master and his friend. Ishika says she's relieved because it looks like she won't have to throw him into a pit of fire. Haruki looks at the woman, wondering if that's really what she meant. Seishiro says she's one of the 5 members of the Special Forces unit in the entire CPU, including Midori. And Aisug adds that this is Ichika Hinoki. Upon hearing this, So asks who he's even explaining that to. Observing the place, Shinji says something doesn't add up since she said the eliminated person was probably a captain. But the 7 captains are alive. Ichika Hinoki knows this and gives a smile. In any case, she calls Minato, saying she has something to tell him. The boy loudly repeats everything she told him, and Shinji tells him to keep his voice down. The master says it's highly likely, judging by the traces left in the central garden. She adds that someone at least as strong as the captains was eliminated. Ichika is sharp and has an explanation for why everyone is still present. Therefore, the killer is in disguise. Minato asks if that means they're in serious trouble. Shinji confirms it and says that if they don't find the culprit soon, more lives may be lost. But the worst part is if they succeed in their goal and a prophecy comes true. Ichika surprises her students by saying she has an idea. The master suggests eliminating everyone at once and solving the problem. Putting all the pieces together, Minato concludes that this is not just about selecting the new captain. It's actually an opportunity to hunt down and eliminate one of the 12 disciples hiding inside the CPU. Ichika agrees, reminding them that this group is responsible for Makoto's death. With a sly smile, she asks if that doesn't make his blood boil. Minato reflects on it, but yes, he's ready for this. And Shinji feels the same way. Minato is sitting, looking like his mind is about to explode from trying so hard to think. But his gaze is also sad. One of the progenitors is curious to know what he's thinking. The detective says that if it were him, he'd be checking the garden, but he knows Minato is in the middle of a test, so it's not possible. Kanagi remembers that he still has some break time left, and Azul says that might raise the culprit's suspicions. The detective supposes that if the enemy is as strong as the 12, he could eliminate everyone if he wanted. With that, he concludes they must be ready in case he tries something like that. Minato knows the progenitor is right. After the next test, he intends to investigate the crime scene. He finds it strange that none of the progenitors noticed there was a fight, and Raikiro reminds him that they were trapped on the mountain with him for an entire month. The progenitor says there's a mysterious power in that place that blocks the flow of energy and reveals it's the place where he created the Hinoki-style sword technique. Mills adds that besides that, the culprit might be completely camouflaged unless someone gets very close, and she asks if that proves it's one of them. The detective asks them to stop interfering with his work, and Raikiro tells him to quit complaining and do his job because he wants to eliminate the culprit. After taking a deep breath, Azul seems thoughtful. He asks his pupil if he could ask Ichika a question on his behalf. Minato asks her what if the killer disguised themselves as one of the candidates instead of the captain. This sparks a new idea in the master. She says the candidates are powerful enough to be recommended as future captains, so it's certainly possible. However, she says that doesn't mean they can rule out the others as suspects, especially Minato, if the next test is a combat one. Kanagi plans to provoke the culprit into revealing themselves. The break ends, starting the third test. It's the written exam with strict rules. No talking, no cell phones, and no leaving the individual room. Minato is screwed, as there's nothing he can do. Worse still, all the questions are about CPU regulations, and he knows nothing about that. Since it's a test to choose the next captain, he thinks it actually makes sense. But he won't give up until it's over, so he tries hard to think. After all, there's still a chance. Finally, the results are announced. The board shows the 4 finalists. Minato feels terrible for having completely failed the written test, earning 0 points, and approaches, saying it's the end of the line for the last 4 candidates. The boy tells Minato he did a good job. In the test, Aizu came in first, which irritates M because the 4-eyed guy did well. He and Kanagi both scored 0. The redhead says that even so, Minato is still in first overall, which is amazing, and that in his own case, he thought he'd last a bit longer because of the 3 points. He says he'll be cheering for Minato's victory, and just wants to know if the new captain will be someone he'd like to work with. En says that to be officially recognized, a unit needs at least 7 members, and advises Minato to consider who he would invite if he becomes captain. There's one more thing to say. He tells him that if he wants the Kanagi unit to have the best physical abilities, he should recruit him as the first member. Either way, he wishes Minato good luck. Meanwhile, the detective asks if they checked the central garden, and the boy asks if he still hasn't figured out who the culprit is. Azul asks Minato what he thinks he is, making it clear that he's a professional detective and only needs concrete evidence. Finally, it's time to start pressuring the disciple. With the disbanding of the Suu unit, another is needed. Minato is recommended, and Ichika, the one responsible for that, revealed something shocking. One of the 12 disciples eliminated someone who was taking the test and assumed their identity. Fortunately, Minato has a detective progenitor within him. Mills wonders how Azul will solve this case. And finally, they arrive at the exact location where the death occurred. Every detail is examined, no matter what it is. Minato wants to know what the progenitor is thinking. The detective says it's almost exactly as he expected. At this point, he knows precisely who the victim and the culprit are. Minato remains silent upon hearing this. Reikiro says they're sure the killer is one of the 12 disciples because he feels that powerful energy from a prophecy book. He says it's the same as the one that guy had in the snowy mountain. Mel's wants to know what they should do. Suddenly, a strange wind rustles the tree leaves. This seems to affect Azul in some way. The progenitor returns control of the body to Minato. Someone is approaching the boy. Kanagi turns to see what it is. The boy's eyes widen at the figure. It's the elderly commissioner woman approaching. She asks what he's so desperately trying to find. Minato asks who she is. Eva says she's just an old lady who happened to be passing by and asked him to answer her question. Minato says he thinks someone was eliminated there. He looks at this new landscape, afraid to face the woman. Ayo is shocked by this information. She recognized the traces of energy. Thinking it through, she knows the boy was one of the candidates in the test, and thus realizes he is gifted. The woman says that he should then find the culprit, and Minato reveals that he already knows, but that he wasn't the one who figured it out. Kanagi says that's precisely why he can't reveal the identity yet. Ayo says she's not sure what he means and asks if it wouldn't be better to stop the person as quickly as possible. The boy explains that the problem with these things is that they are extremely powerful, and he believes there are 2 people behind all of this. Minato says that's why he decided it would be better to take them both out at once. The boy says that everything will be resolved the next day, so he asks if she could delay the alarm for now. Ayo thinks over the request. After all, Minato is asking her to postpone it. But her response is that she's just an old lady passing by and hopes everything goes according to his plan. The woman starts to leave and he asks her to wait. Either way, the boy tells her his name. With a smile, Ayo says she will remember that. Another strong wind almost knocks Minato over. The sound of nature is heard once more. Kanji is surprised to find himself back. There's no one else there but him. Shiki asks the lady if she thinks this is a good idea. Io assures her that the boy knows more about the incident than anyone else there, and she's curious to see how he'll handle the problem. She asks the girl to speak with Tenjin about staying behind to help Minato in case anything goes wrong. The lady says it was a good idea to investigate the traces of that strange energy. After all, she ended up gaining more than expected. She notices something strange about the girl. Shiki says it's just that it's not very common for her to have high expectations for someone. Aya responds that it's because of his eyes. She recognizes that look in him. The next day begins and Minato is already awake, walking through the area. En soon catches up with him so they can go together. He comments that the test will apparently focus more on evaluating captain-like abilities, and says he heard from Aisuke that they'll likely be testing planning and leadership skills. Either way, he's rooting for Minato. The newcomer thanks him and says there's something he's curious about. Kanji wants to know why he was eliminated on purpose. That seems to catch him off guard. But En turns and says he simply decided to change strategy mid-test, and that instead of leading a unit, he thought it would be better to serve the new captain. Minato asks if it's not because it would be easier to eliminate the other unit members before they become too powerful. Behind a tree, Ichika watches the interaction between the two. Without bothering to hide it, En says that this way he can take over their bodies whenever he wants. He says it's a half-truth since he really did struggle with the written exam. Even with his abilities, the real one would have still scored a 0. Minato adds that then his plan failed and the culprit says he should have chosen Aisuke's body. The fake-an then stops, because he knows it's too late for that. Koichiro was also caught in this deception created by them. Himpiki asks the disciple to go ahead and introduce himself. The fake-an gives a fake smile. His real name is Eva, and he says his ability is to disguise himself as the person he eliminated, gaining all the host's brain information. He says he didn't find Minato in the dormitory, so he eliminated En, who was the strongest of the remaining candidates. Hibiki asks if the plan is to take down the CPU, and Eva confirms, but since his plan failed, he says everyone will now have to be eliminated. But first, he wants to know something. He asks which of them uncovered his true identity. Captain Hibiki says it's the guy standing right next to him. He looks to the side and sees Kanji. Ava deduces that he was the one who organized all of this. His smile turns sinister, and is lit by a powerful green aura. Ava asks Minato who he really is. Kanji stares back at the disciple of the apocalypse. Just before Ava took over En Shikami's body, the real one received the news that he was being recommended as captain. Excited, the boy asks if that's really true. Koichiro confirms and says the other members will be informed the next day, asking him to keep it a secret. The captain asks him to listen, saying the boy has the best combat skills of all the candidates. He says he's sure En will be an excellent leader, and that he'll do very well. This brings tears to the boy's eyes, and promises he won't disappoint him. The boy says he'll try his best to make his captain proud. Koichiro doesn't even have a chance to react to what happened right in front of him. He finally realizes the problem. His subordinate is on the ground, soaked in his own lifeblood. The one responsible for this says En was too weak. Provoking him, Ava asks if that's the best a future captain can do, or maybe they've just grown too powerful. He says it's all thanks to the artifact the boss gave them. Ava introduces herself as one of the 12 disciples they are hunting and says it's a pleasure to meet him. The boy uses his Amanajaku ability on En's body. He quickly realizes something is coming toward him. Koichiro won't let this go and uses his titanium incarnation ability. He strikes the apocalypse disciple. The captain demands how he had the nerve to do this. Now inside En's body, the enemy says he can't believe he managed to defeat the disciple so easily. Koichiro becomes emotional seeing his pupil. He asks if he's really alive, but he doesn't even have time to react. Laughing, Ava says she already told him her real name and that she simply stole his friend's body. She then grabs the artifact Necromance Dance, throwing its contents at Koichiro. The man's eyes snap open, and so the man returns to life. Ava says that from this moment, he is her undead slave, and the captain agrees, calling her Ava. Because of this, the disciple punches the fool. The invader says he must not forget that his name is En Shikami. Koichiro confirms it, and they both laugh. And that was all Azul saw. Using the theatrical detective ability, he says that's the end of the recording. When used at the scene where everything happened, the ability recreates a perfect video of the crime. To activate it, Azul must be sure of both the culprit's identity and the evidence. He can even predict future crimes. The only downside is that the ability disappears forever if he gets it wrong even once. In other words, he's always right. Mills asks if there really is an ability to steal someone's life and an artifact that commands the dead. Raikira comments that that's why it was said there were 2 culprits, and that people like that always scare him. Something happens that puts all the progenitors on high alert. A powerful aura surrounds Minato. Worried, the mage tries to speak to her pupil. The boy promises that the culprit will pay for this. The mark on his hand is smoking. Back to the present, he's about to strike Ava. Minato uses light reflection, planting his foot with X-cross and fist strike, landing a spinning punch to the face of the fake En. Even with Ava being thrown meters away, Kanji has no intention of stopping. The disciple struggles to stay on his feet, but Minato won't give him a break, attacking with several combined abilities. However, something is very wrong. Ava laughs and says that's no way to treat a friend. The fake Ann says he thought they had bonded after all those fights and asks why Minato is being so mean. It's just as Minato thought, he still isn't strong enough. Ava says that if he wants to defeat him, he'll have to do much better, because that level is only good for fighting CPU members. The disciple stands again, glowing with his aura. He says that against him, this kind of thing is a complete waste of time. Kanaji agrees with him, and says that as frustrating as it is, it won't be him who defeats him. The Truth Mage says she feels the exact same rage and bitterness as him. This time, the one in control is Molestius Silentius. Seeing this, Ava wonders if this is what the satellite reports refer to, realizing it's the strange state where the boy seems to be someone else. Ava says Minato asked for this. Dark clouds form in the sky. A powerful energy flows toward him. To Ava, life is more than just a long game of time until death. With a smile, he says not to stop the fun, but to continue this party to the end. The mage will face this challenge. Also seeing through the pupil's eyes, the progenitors want to know what those things are. The detective says he could call it Ava's body shield, as the artifact still allows her to copy an old corpse and control it at will. Ava says these creatures are just as powerful as Enshikami, and she's ready for some fun. Hibiki counts at least 100 bodies, which scares Kanayam, who asks the captain what they should do. Minato says that it's not enough for Ava to kill innocent people. She also tramples on their dignity. Mills comments that her pupil has changed. This surprises the boy, who asks if that's really true. She says she believes the progenitors have changed too. The mage is in control of the body. Either way, she says the bastard really underestimated them. With the Hadat ability, the dead are struck by yellow lightning. The dead turn to dust. Ava looks at this, deeply impressed. Mel's asked to give permission for those bodies to fall in front of her. Her promise is to destroy them before they hit the ground. All of them begin to vanish, consumed by flames. Ava is shocked to see what the brat can do. He wants to know how he's doing this. Ava knows there are people who reached an extremely high level of precision through hard work and training. Looking at that absurd sight in the sky is too much for him. Even so, it's an enormous amount of electric energy to control all at once. And not only that, he hit every corpse without even looking. The mage calls Minato to stand beside her because she wants him to observe her in action. Kanaji runs to be close to her. He knows that with her using his body, it doesn't have the same power as in her prime. But even so, her attacks are precise, hitting all targets without the slightest mistake. Mel's calls her a pupil. She says that in the beginning, the boy only wanted power for his own sake. As for them, they were so excited to use his body and release their powers. Minato still doesn't understand what she means by all of this. The woman continues, saying that after that, he became distracted as his power increased and he pushed himself further. To gain more power and fulfill his dream, leaving the progenitors moved as they saw the boy's limitless talent begin to bloom. She recalls that he then tasted his first bitter disappointment, just like someone he respected asked him to continue the legacy. And now it has come to this point. Mel says he's truly furious on behalf of those who were eliminated and used by that fool. All the progenitors look at the boy with pride. The mage still has something he needs to know. So she tells him that everyone likes this new Minato. Outside, Ava asks what he's answering to himself. He makes it clear that the weak are always pushed and crushed by the strong because that's the law of nature. As he tries to attack, he's the one who ends up retreating at the last second. Without the boy even moving, a powerful blast was fired. Ava realizes something is wrong. Mel says she's sure many people think like that, and that actually it reminds her of something. Or rather, they're simply remembering something. They tried to destroy that tower for a very simple reason. They couldn't stand seeing people being crushed and pushed aside by powerful beings. Not even the sight of the weak being abused by the strong. That filled the progenitors with genuine rage. Using Minato's body, she walks closer. She tells Kaniji that she's sure he's felt that way before and that his abilities are somewhat reduced. Knowing that must be quite frustrating for him. Mills asks him to go back to the time he was training on the mountain, when he seemed so bright and happy, yet they can feel his tension now. The mage tells the boy not to forget that they feel the same things he does. She also says that one day he'll reach the level of the progenitors because she's absolutely sure of it. Mel says that whenever something is too hard to handle alone, they'll be there to help him. To end the emotional moment, she says that when he's upset about something cruel or unfair, they'll be angry with him too. But for now, it's time to stop this prophecy. Thus, the disciple of the apocalypse is torn to pieces. The CPU members watching are stunned by this. Tenjin says the boy reminds him of a younger Midori, an unstoppable beast that nothing can defeat. Defeated on the ground, Ava can't believe that over 100 puppets were destroyed in midair and that this body is now useless to him. Males asks if now he finally sees the difference in their abilities, and she still has many things she wants to know. She tells him not to worry as they have several among them specialized in interrogation, so they'll make sure the enemy tells them everything. The disciple of the apocalypse remains on the ground. Ava admits he's not strong enough to win in this state. He says it's a good thing he followed his boss's advice. That's why he prepared a little plan B as a precaution. Next to the stolen body, a coffin appears. Minato looks at it, curious. Ava says they've known about it for a long time. After all, he helped destroy the tower, because he is one of the original progenitors. The curse of the hordes, Raikiro Hinoki, that frightens the progenitor's spirit upon seeing his body. Not expecting the worst, a Hadad is sent toward the coffin, making the swordsman complain. Mel says it must really be the real body, because it passed right through Hadad. The stolen Raikiro walks toward them. With a smile, this is his dream coming true. Minato feels the aura coming from that body. It's as powerful as Midori's, which was sensed at the training school. But in truth, it's even stronger. Ava raises her hand for her next trick. Hands begin to emerge from the ground. This is the second wave of troops. It frightens the boy quite a bit, but Mel's assures him that everything will be fine. An explosion goes off behind Ava. The body thief looks back confused. There's something Minato must not forget. There's little Heiko, the current powerful alchemist Akane, his new sword master Ichika, even his new friend Shinji. The mage tells him he must not forget that he's not alone because he has all of them. Ava asks if these are his little companions. His words make Minato realize that beyond the voice, even his way of speaking resembles Raikiro's. Ava says she has some bad news to share. She says there are no weaklings among her puppets. So attacks one of the dead, but she soon has to dodge its counterattack. The woman questions whether the creature is using some kind of body armor ability, as her death ray didn't even leave a scratch. She realizes it's as if each of them has activated their own abilities. Seishiro can't find any weak points to strike, and poor Kanayan runs in fear of the creatures. Captain Hibiki already puts on her headphones to take them down, activating her ability Realize. Then, like a melody sweet, the Firebird. With her Firebird, she eliminates everything in her path. This impresses little Kanayan, but the captain thinks it's a bad sign if they're capable of using abilities even after death. The chain then breaks. Kanayan notices this and finds it strange. Looking up, he sees the undead Koichiro free from his prison and ready to strike with titanium incarnation. The monster simply strikes the ground. As a result, it creates multiple cracks as if breaking the floor of hell. But Hibiki already knew he would do this. Meanwhile, Ava is enjoying all this chaos. She says she fears that a weakling like Minato won't live to see the end of this battle. Kanaji says that's what she thinks at least, and asks what they think. The boy gives a small smile. Another voice asks to take control of the body for a minute. It's Minato again, who asks who she thinks won't live to see the end of this battle. Ada finds this rather odd. Minato tells her not to underestimate his companions, calling her a filthy disciple. Hikotaro is surrounded by puppets. He realizes it will be all of them against him and sees it as a good opportunity to put Lesson 7 into practice. An energy flows through the boy's body. The golden dragon activated by the fist technique. His foot gently touches the creature. This is perfect for him to strike each one of them. This is his powerful dragon's crossing. Tak Wong, creator of the fist technique, observes Hikotaro and comments that he has a very unusual body. The boy's muscles are as tight as a pulled wire and incredibly flexible. He also noticed that Hiko's basic strategy is to focus all this power on individual points using a combination of footwork and jumps. Eilerson, progenitor of Flashfoot, thinks it's cool but a waste of energy, because there's a better way to make the most of natural talent. She says that's what he should strive to use with a continuous line of movement that can't be broken. With his elastic body, Hiko entangles his opponent with serpent coil like a steel whip that can cut through anything, and nothing can escape it. Heiko uses dragon scales. It's wonderful, and he's ready for the next. There are more creatures, but his target is another. Akane doesn't intend to lose to Heiko. To Killick, alchemy is a method to bring the imperfect as close to perfection as possible. He knows the girl is quite straightforward in her approach to battle, having focused all her energy on creating weapons, but that's only a small part of alchemy. The violet-eyed girl uses her Trismegistus liquid. Killick says that alchemists deal in forbidden arts, learning to control everything around them, and in this way, to make it transcend. And that's exactly what she does with even means. Akane's lesson 8 is to create imaginary creatures. She created one strong enough to destroy the body of a transcendent being. Minato calls for his master Raikiro. The swordsman says that if it's because of Shinji Suo, there's no need to worry. On the battlefield, the redhead is also surrounded by the dead. Raikiro says he may be different from his brother, but his natural talent for being a warrior is excellent. Shinji is able to use the Hinoki-style sword technique very well. With Snake Crawl, he slices through everything using his sharp blade. He has more special cards up his sleeve. Using the ability Marigold Blast, he manages to trap everyone around him. Ichika, watching the fight, is impressed by the incredible combination. She wonders if he combined the sword technique with another ability. Despite being limited to the sword, she realizes he can do it just like Minato. Something catches her attention and pulls her out of her thoughts. A hurricane of flame surrounds Minato and Ava. With that, Ichika realizes that the battle between Kanaji and one of the 12 disciples has finally begun. But there's something different that she notices. Looking closely, she wonders if it's really what she thinks. She wants to know if that's true of the founder of the Hinoki-style sword technique, Raikiro. Shocked, Ichika wants to know what is going on. But this fight is Mel's versus Ava. The fake Raichiro uses the Hinoki-style sword technique, using Sea Storm's slash against the boy. Mel's, using the body, easily dodges. Even so, impresses the real Minato. Without saying a single word, she uses Habad, and Ava tries to counter with his sword. Unfortunately, the mage's strike isn't strong enough. With movements in all directions, Ava uses Dice Roll. This causes slashes to everything around. Mel's protects herself by jumping onto one of the blocks. Minato had used this ability before, so he can recognize the difference. This one is the true Hinoki-style sword technique. However, there's something else. Meanwhile, the CPU members try to save their lives. This technique is even more powerful. With it, Seishiro's hand is severed from his body, and so ends up falling into the abyss. That doesn't go unnoticed by the mage. The Transcendents are rescued by a kind of golden bubble. They are taken to a safe area while she goes deeper into the fight. Mills asks Raikiro what he thinks they should do. The swordsman ponders the question, but instead of answering, he simply walks away. Raikiro says he'll leave it to her and that she can do whatever she wants, and that's fine with her. Mills stares at her enemy inside her friend's body. Using the sword technique, she invokes Cloud Beam. Himpiki, who's watching the battle, is impressed by how powerful it is. The arrogant Ava finds it all amazing and wastes no time causing chaos to the others. He says this is the body of a progenitor optimized and specialized for battle. Mocking, Ava asks if there are even stronger techniques. Mills only observes her next move. The body snatcher charges with non-physical sublime perfection, rushing toward Minato. But then he realizes it didn't go as he expected. The real Raikiro finds this all boring. Mills even agrees with him. After all, even using his body, the enemy still manages to be so weak. This angers Ava, who tells him not to call him weak. After all, he's using the body of a legendary progenitor. He believes there must be something more powerful than this and focuses hard to go deeper, but something doesn't go as expected. Ava suddenly starts crying, and even he finds it strange. With the ability to access everything, he saw the memories imprinted in Raikiro's body from when he was alive. There were monsters so terrifying that just looking at them was enough to destroy a person's mind. Raikiro defeated an entire tower of those monsters with a single strike, but despite his remarkable achievements, he seemed completely indifferent and even bored. Ava wanted someone powerful, but this is too much even for him. It's even beyond all limits of human consciousness. Ava is in shock after seeing all of Raikiro Hinoki's memories. The swordsman eliminated people and monsters. He crossed the seas, and not only that, he went beyond, conquering entire planets. Ava cries through the progenitor's body. Desperate, he wonders when this will end, but he's becoming even stronger. He can't take it anymore. It's too much. His soul will be destroyed by this mental hell. Raikiro says they should just sit and let him self-destruct. But Eilerson says he should know better, that if the fool loses control, he'll end up eliminating everyone. Hearing this makes Minato worried. A malevolent aura envelops Raichiro's body. This throws Eiler into a panic, saying that he's lost control and now everyone is going to die. This pain is too much even for the most evil creature, and everyone will feel it. In Takasaki, in Gumma Prefecture, the tremors can already be felt. Kirasagi's partner asks what's going on, and the man tells him to evacuate the citizens. He realizes that this aura is massive and discovers that it's coming from Nagano Prefecture, which is 96 km away from there. Kirasagi wants to know what kind of monster is powerful enough to produce an aura like this in the current moment. The puppet bodies are being destroyed. Akane and Heiko are frightened and don't understand what's happening. Shinji struggles to stay standing, wondering how an aura can be this powerful. Kuromo can't even resist the force and collapses to the ground. The same happens to So. Seeing his friends suffer makes Minato desperately scream for Raichiro, but the progenitor doesn't seem moved by him. The swordsman simply tells Mills that he warned her she would be the one to handle this, and the mage knows that well. However, in Minato's current state, she says he should be strong enough to defeat this guy. Magical bracelets appear around her. This is her Maagai Hemet. Ava continues releasing the powerful evil aura. Akane is right behind, not understanding what's happening. The alchemist calls out to Minato and also to the girl, knowing she can hear him. He tells them both to pay attention. Killick says that some study alchemy while others dedicate themselves to magic, but in the end, what unites them is the search for truth. He says that's one of the final goals. The man asks them to look, and questions whether the body of a transcendent can truly be contained in a single fragment of truths. Mills also observes this from within the body's control. Filled with hatred, the body thief wishes for Minato's end. Ato's mind was already shattered into pieces, and the only thing controlling Raichiro's body was that. He says that even so, the progenitor is practically unstoppable. Like a wild animal thrashing in a desperate attempt to survive, destroying everything around him. Killick recalls that at one point, the young and inexperienced Raichiro gave in to this state of complete physical abandonment. Driven by remorse for his past actions, he named this ability Total Darkness, for its absence of any redeeming light. Mills stares at her friend's body, feeling the weight of the alchemist's words. A light then awakens inside her. There's a vortex of darkness, and Ava is inside it. Minato is struck by the destruction, as is Shinji, who is cut into several parts. Heiko and Akane are also caught in it. No one is spared by total darkness, not even the puppets of the dead. This even seems to anger the volcano, which erupts with lava, going further and hitting Kirasagi and his allies. Even Minato's mother is affected by it. The darkness reaches all the way to the sanctuary of the progenitors, where it all began. Total darkness spreads across the entire world, but the source suffers even more. More darkness is released by Ava. Mel's finally sees what he's capable of. The Mage of Truth, Molestius Silentius, had sealed part of her power because it felt so distant from this world. This is one of the abilities she kept hidden, the capacity to decipher an enemy's abilities, perfect understanding. She uses it against Ava. Immediately, the body thief feels the effect from just her touch. Mills finally managed to disable it. She keeps holding him to prevent him from escaping her grip, maintaining her hold firmly. The Mage of Truth uses Enlil Melum. Ava, who is using the swordsman's body, screams as he feels her power. A bright light envelops them both. Gradually, it becomes possible to see the two again, but the swordsman's body is completely burned. Slowly, it starts disintegrating, being carried away by the wind, and even so, Mel's keeps holding on. and she still says, "Until next time, remnants of an old friend." Mel's continues the farewell saying, "Until we meet again on the other side of the ring of truth." The other progenitors watch this. They are truly saying goodbye to their friend. But Raikira reminds them that he is still there, though Mel says that the body and soul are two separate things. Minato is shocked by everything that happened. Mills asks if this helped him understand a little better. Either way, she returns control of the body to its owner. Meanwhile, the others celebrate, thinking it's incredible that he defeated the monster. Ichika then asks the boy why he didn't use the sword. After all, they had trained for an entire month. Heiko reflects on how he believed he was surpassing Minato, but now realizes he was wrong and wonders how much stronger his friend will become. Shinji can't believe he incinerated Ava like it was nothing. Ichika says what impressed her most was what came before. To her, it wasn't coincidence. Minato understood the enemy's ability perfectly and then neutralized it. Akaten thinks that this must be the highest level a person can reach. And so she wonders if she'll ever reach that point. At least everyone is safe. Tenjin asks what he's supposed to do with this hole and admits he didn't think choosing a new captain would cause so many problems. Remembering that Todoroki is also gone, he considers whether he should conduct another test, something that's a real hassle for him. Kuromo ends up noticing something and Kinem, already startled, asks what happened. She points to a specific spot, saying she saw something, and the boy already fears it's the mummies coming back. Even Tenjin worries, thinking it might be something worse. Little by little, the new intruder is revealed. He asks the commissioner lady what she's doing there. Minato realizes it's the old woman he talked to the day before. Shiki tries to make sense of the lady. She calls out to the commissioner, but it's already too late. The two are startled by what she does. Kneeling down, the woman says that Minato is here. Io says she's been waiting for him for years. Then she says, "Welcome back, honorable progenitors." That leaves all of them in shock. Everyone watches what's happening. Minato's friends are stunned to hear that the old woman is the commissioner. Ichika asks if they didn't know about her or if it's their first time seeing her in person. The master explains that Io is one of the founders of the CPU and the highest-ranking official at the Japanese branch. But they only want to know why she's bowing to Minato, and Ichika sarcastically asks how she's supposed to know that. Meanwhile, Kanaji wants to understand why the lady he met in the central garden is bowing to him. The boy tells the others that she knows about them and asks if any of the progenitors recognize her, but none of them have any idea. But Raikiro senses something in her aura. To him, it feels very familiar. Theo asks if he doesn't remember her and says she's not surprised since she's aged quite a bit since the last time they met. An idea comes to the lady's mind that might help him recognize her. She makes a hand gesture that already puts the boy on alert. In a strange stance, the woman calls out to Raichiro and asks if he remembers the wiggle dance. That leaves the progenitors a bit confused, but something about it starts to make sense. Then their memory goes back to a not-so-distant past. Finally, they discover that this is Io. Meliz's face turns bright red like a tomato while Raikiro asks to borrow the body for a minute. In control, the swordsman says he hasn't seen her in centuries, which leaves Minato's friends confused. Tenjin and Shiki scold the boy for the way he's speaking to the commissioner. Unaware of the threat, they seem to be enjoying the wiggle dance. Meanwhile, the other two plan a new captain test after helping Minato meet the founder, but Io asks both of them to calm down. Meanwhile, Raikiro says he can't believe how much time has passed and that she's now an old lady. She says she remembers how the swordsman used to tease her. Io says he hasn't changed one bit. So the video ends here. If you don't want to miss the next part, activate the notification bell, and see you next time on Tob's channel.